Hey there guys, it's Klay here back with another video. Today I will read chapters 21 to 25 of What If Naruto Took Training Seriously, and just like always. The information about the author of the story will be in the description. Anyways, I will now begin. Chapter 21. Start. Mom, came the flabbergasted voices of Naruto and Sasuke. The two figures slowly stepped out of the coffins before they looked at each other. Kushina? Makoto? The two reanimations looked away from each other and stared at their children. Naruto, my little Sasuke. The redhead burst into a wide grin at her son. Honey, you're all grown up. Look at you, I never thought I'd get to see you again. Sasuke dear. How you've grown. The youngest of the Uchiha brothers stared on in shock at his mother. Mother. His eyes turned hateful and he shifted his gaze to the snake Sanin. How dare you? I'll kill you. Mom. I've wanted so bad to meet you. I know so much about you, but I never got to hear your voice. Naruto said as he smiled sadly at his mother. Orochimaru launched forward and shoved control talismans in the necks of both women. He quickly interrupted the conversation. How touching. But you can catch up while you kill each other. Kushina stiffened before she launched forward at her son, a kunai in hand. Naruto. Here I come, be ready. The blonde quickly drew a tri-prong and countered the strike. The man was a storm of emotions. He had finally got to see his mother, but he had to fight her. She kicked him in the stomach, and jumped away. Biting her thumb, she swiped it over her forearm, causing a seal to appear. In a puff of smoke, a black katana appeared. The hilt landed in her grip, and she looked sadly at her son. Naruto, please be careful, I'm being forced to get serious. It's fine Mom, I'm your son, all deal. He said, gaining a serious look. He quickly took his fighting stance. The two launched forward and began another clash. Meanwhile, Sasuke was in a predicament. He thought he was skilled with a sword, but it turned out he was nothing in comparison to his mother. He quickly brought his weapon to bear as the Uchiha matriarch brought a forceful slice down at his shoulder. The two locked blades, and their Sharingan eyes locked on each other. Mother. Why did Itachi kill the clan? Sasuke asked. Makoto was slightly taken aback by the question, but answered in kind. My little Sasuke, she said, swinging her sword around as the male jumped over the blade. That is something I cannot tell you. Only Itachi can tell you why he slaughtered the clan. But I can tell you this, my son. Sasuke was forced to leap away as she shot a massive fireball toward him. Itachi loves you, unconditionally. My Sharingan had already read your mind when we locked eyes, and I saw everything. I don't know why Itachi chose the path he took, but one day. You should ask him, my son. She finished launching another massive blast of fire toward him. The male Uchiha quickly countered with a fireball of his own. Now focus. Things are about to get serious. Right. The raven-haired man said, as he launched back into the battle with his mother. You fight a lot like your father, and you got his hair. Looks like you got my face and my verbal tick though. Sorry about that, you know. Mother, I'm extremely happy I got your face. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Naruto replied as he was forced to dodge the sword that had attempted to pierce his back. As it turned out, his mother's chakra chains could wield her sword as if they were her hands. You've grown into a fine young man, Naruto. Thank you, Mom. Naruto, she said, dodging the impact of a Rasengan that was intended for her chest. You need to stop holding back. I'm not holding back, Mother. He replied as he flickered away from her. He quickly palmed a new set of kunai and let them fly at the person who had brought him to this world. You and I both know you're lying. You know, she said angrily as she swung her sword down at him. The blonde was crouched low before her and quickly brought his tri-prong up, and locked Kushina's blade with his own. He quickly kicked her feet out from underneath her and flipped backwards. I know you want to talk to me and ask me things, Naruto. But I don't belong in this world. It's wrong for me to be alive again. You need to get serious. I am. He yelled, frustration evident on his face. He saw a distance away was the snake Sanin watching intently as they battled. The blonde dodged a swing of her sword, and came up with a swipe of his kunai. The blade removed his mother's arm, and he leapt away as it slowly began to reform. Naruto was mad. He could usually control his emotions, but as of now seeing his mother used as a weapon had him fuming. He threw a kunai that impacted the ground behind his mother. Quickly he appeared behind her, Rasengan charged in his hand. The jutsu rammed into the lower back of the reanimation, causing catastrophic damage. As Kushina's lower torso slowly began to reform, Naruto formed 3 shadow clones. The clones quickly surrounded the woman in a triangular formation. He quickly ran through hand seals while the clones did the same. He looked sadly at his mother before he spoke. "Mother, I wish we could have had more time together. I love you, thank you for being my mom. You've been the driving force for my entire shinobi career." As he spoke, tears began to fall from his face, his emotions taking hold. He closed his eyes momentarily, and that was when Kakashi arrived on scene. "I love you too, Naruto," said Kushina as she prepared to meet Minato once again. This was the sight Kakashi was greeted with as he landed behind his student. He watched as the blonde closed his eyes, before he finished the hand seals to seal away his mother. "Fuinjutsu, 3-pillar sealing technique," said the blonde, as his clones turned into 3 solid pillars of chakra that closed in on his mother before glowing brightly. Naruto walked forward, and pulled his scroll from his back. "Goodbye mother," he said as he laid a smaller scroll down beside her. The chakra slowly flowed like a small stream across the ground, forming a large sealing array on the scroll. The blonde then sealed it away inside his larger one before quickly sealing the sword she had left behind away as well. After which he rolled up the large scroll, and replaced it on his back. "Naruto, was that? Yes, that was my mother. I'm sorry kiddo. It's alright sensei. You're a fine man now Sasuke. I'm very proud of you." "Thank you mother," the Uchiha replied as he sent lightning through his sword that was currently buried in her abdomen. The lightning ripped down the blade and blew a massive hole through her chest. "That's still not going to be enough Sasuke," she said with worry. "It's alright, I don't have to do it on my own," he replied, feeling his blonde teammate land beside him. Quickly they were forced to dodge as the deceased mother swung her sword where their heads had been seconds ago. "I have friends, and people who care for me. I'll do alright on my own." She fired off a fireball at the boys, and they quickly countered with their own combo. Sasuke's fireball slammed into his mother's, but with Naruto's wind amplification, it quickly overpowered the jutsu. "I'm happy to hear that Sasuke," she said to the boy as she charged at them once again. "Sasuke, can you hold her down?" the blonde yelled, a plan quickly forming in his head. "Yeah I can. Keep her busy for a second," the raven-haired man yelled in response. The blonde quickly leapt forward, catching the blade of Makoto's weapon in the prong of his kunai. He grabbed her, slammed a Rasengan into her chest, and tossed her away. As she landed he leapt back to the once brooding man's side. "You must be Kushina's boy right? You're the spitting image of her and Minato," she said addressing the newcomer. "Hey that's me, Uzumaki Naruto, at your service. Please, look after my son Naruto. You can count on me. He's my best friend after all," the blonde said, his smile bright as ever. "Now Sasuke. Lightning style. Lightning chain prison." Suddenly chains of lightning shot out from the ground, stabbing through the wrists and ankles of his mother, before wrapping around her and pinning her in place. Naruto ran up to her quickly, yanking his scroll from his back. He unfurled it to a blank section, and in seconds had a formula drawn out. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Soul Binding Technique. After seeing Naruto remove his mother from the battlefield, Orochimaru immediately made the decision to flee. The blonde and the Uchiha were problematic enough on their own, but including Kakashi and the wood user, it was overkill. Unfortunately, when Orochimaru moved to leave the large underground room, he was stopped by a large purple barrier. "Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, 6-point barricade," said the blonde ninja as he appeared not far from the Sannin. "You're not going anywhere Snake. You'll pay for ripping our mothers from their peaceful rest," the Uchiha said, as he came into existence behind the pale man, running him through with his blade. With the Sannin impaled, Naruto made his move. He quickly appeared before the man, and began drawing out seals while Sasuke began to electrocute the wannabe immortal. As the blonde finished the formula, he was interrupted when the Kusanagi shot from the man's mouth. The blonde was barely able to dodge a fatal wound, instead having the sword run through his thigh. With the blonde out of the way momentarily, the Sannin continued his counterstrike. His serpents burst from the ground behind the Uchiha, and bound him as Orochimaru walked off the blade, while he retracted his own. Another group of snakes also appeared, grabbing the Uzumaki boy and held him down. "I'm actually mad now. I haven't felt anger this strong in a long time. I'll be taking your body now, Sasuke," he said with a sickening predatory smile. As the man was only inches from the Uchiha's face, a sound filled the room. The chirping of birds broke through the air as Kakashi's lightning blade ripped through the snakes that held Sasuke hostage. Sasuke! The masked nin yelled, as he plunged his hand through Orochimaru's torso. Right! The raven responded, throwing his sword in a wide arc. Ninja wire reeled out from its handle, and with a hard pull Sasuke changed its trajectory. The sword flew wide, swinging around and taking out the snakes holding the Seal Master down. Naruto quickly leapt from the ground, still favoring his wounded leg. 3 clones burst to life, and all slapped their palms onto the Sannin's body. A Fuinjutsu formula quickly formed over the Sannin, which caused the man great alarm. He pushed Kakashi's hand from his torso, and quickly leapt away. The fake traitor, and his sensei quickly rushed to engage the man, while the blonde hung back. The masked man ducked under a swing from the Sannin's sword, and as soon as it passed over him, the Uchiha used him as a springboard to launch into the air above the man. Fire style. Searing migraine. He yelled as he blasted the snake with a massive onslaught of flames. Water style. Water wall. Enclosure. The Sannin yelled, as 4 walls of water formed around him, and one took the position overhead. This cube of water negated the fire jutsu, and left the snake man unharmed. Fuinjutsu. Reverse summoning. Came the soft yell of Naruto, and he suddenly appeared behind the oldest in the room. He buried a kunai in each of the man's shoulders and used them as a handhold to wrench the man to the ground. Using the headhunter jutsu, 4 clones' hands burst from the ground below the man, each grabbing onto his body and holding him in place. Not even a second later, Naruto had his scroll rolled open beside the man, and quickly executed his formula. Uzumaki Forbidden Fuinjutsu, Body Repossession of Izanagi. The spiritual form of the god of life came to existence behind the blonde Junin. The astral form grabbed hold of the Sannin, and with a pained scream, the snake was pulled away from the realm of the living, with no body to be left behind. His soul would forever wander the earth. Naruto, what did you just do? Asked Kakashi. Well, if one has enough chakra, they can use this sealing technique without dying. He said, panting heavily. But the strain put on the user's body is immense, and effectively removes them from the battle fee. He trailed off as he collapsed from bodily exhaustion. Kakashi quickly caught the boy, and laid him gently to the ground. Sensei, we need to remove Sasuke's curse mark. Orochimaru. Dot can be brought back with it. When I remove it, it'll bring him out, you'll need to kill him again. And seal his body away with this formula. He said as he slowly drew a new sealing formula out on the scroll. The blonde handed the scroll to Kakashi, and motioned for Sasuke to come to him. Sasuke, sit down. The Uchiha raised an eyebrow, before sitting cross-legged next to Naruto. The Junin slowly pushed himself from the ground and stood over his friend. I've spent a lot of my time since coming back studying Anko's seal. I developed this to remove it. I'm using you as a test subject because you're too stubborn to die from this. Wait, what? Sasuke moved to question his friend but was interrupted when Naruto placed his palm over the seal and made hand signs with his opposite hand. Fuinjutsu. Curse seal purge and removal. Sasuke screamed out in pain as the blonde seal did its work. It purged the chakra from the mark, and forced Orochimaru out. As soon as the snake man was out, Kakashi slammed his Chidori into his chest. He grabbed hold of the formula Naruto had made, and activated it with a hand seal. Streams of kanji and unrecognizable characters wrapped around Orochimaru. As they fully enveloped him, he screamed in agony as they ripped away his chakra and life force. Once he had been drained, the seals slowly retracted back into the scroll, and they carried the body with them. With this, Naruto finally collapsed once again, but this time he was forced into unconsciousness. Well, Sasuke, are you alright? The Uchiha winced and stood slowly. Yeah, I'll live, can we go back now? Sure thing. Kakashi said with an eye smile. So that's it, he's dead? Asked the blonde Hokage. Yes ma'am. As far as we know, everyone with the curse mark is dead, and Naruto is currently in the process of removing Anko's. The only bad news we have to report from the operation is that Kabuto was not located during any of the fighting, he is still at large. The masked Junin reported. Alright, good. I'll keep hunter teams out looking for him. Sasuke. Yes ma'am? Welcome back from your mission. All of this will be reported to the village tomorrow, and your status as a missing nin will be removed. She said, folding her hands and resting her chin upon them. Thank you, ma'am. I'd like permission to go after the rogue ninja Uchiha Itachi. No, not yet. Your strength is to be evaluated. You shall be tested against Kakashi and or Naruto. There we will determine if you are capable of taking the mission you request. I assure you, ma'am, I am of the utmost capability. Sasuke started but was interrupted by the blonde woman. I don't care, this will happen. I've no doubt you're capable, but the rest of the Junin command structure needs to see your skills before you leap into the fray. She countered. The Uchiha moved to counter with his own argument, but was stopped when the door to the office opened. Geez, Ski, you act like you don't want to fight me. Naruto. Just go along with it. It won't take long, you stubborn fool. Fine. Alright, the Hokage cut in. The test will be at Training Ground 7. Be there at sunrise. Yes, ma'am. Sasuke, head home, rest and prepare yourself. Kakashi, Naruto, stay here. I'm not done with you yet. As she finished, the Uchiha excused himself from the room, and the two remaining shinobi stood before their leader. Kakashi, Naruto. You two will be leading a special team to hunt down Akatsuki members. Uchiha Itachi will be handled by Naruto and Sasuke, assuming the Uchiha proves strong enough. Kakashi, you, Yamato, and Guy will escort the two of them on their way to find Uchiha Itachi. Understood, ma'am. Anything else? Nothing more for you, Naruto, you may go. Kakashi, begin collection of intel we have on every possible member of the organization, and set up a briefing packet. Also get a readout of all of Itachi's known abilities put into a packet for Naruto. Yes, ma'am, will do. Ready, Sasuke? Of course I am, idiot. Don't underestimate me, Sasuke. I'm leagues above what I was when you left. So am I. Shut up, both of you. Now, begin, yelled the blonde Hokage. Almost instantly after she finished, the grounds were littered with tri-pronged kunai. Sasuke's Sharingan flashed to life, and he focused in on Naruto. The blonde was behind him in seconds, his body flicker almost blowing Sasuke's expectations out of the water. A kunai swung down for the Uchiha's shoulder, and was barely stopped by his quick reflexes with his sword. Lightning instantly surrounded the black-haired man's body, before blasting out from around him like an urchin. The lightning spikes forced Naruto to substitute away, one of his clones he had hidden immediately taking the full force of the attack. That's new. I call it lightning style, porcupine technique. It's useful, the sole loyal Uchiha said. That it is, replied the blonde. The Uchiha quickly appeared behind the blonde in motion of a sword swing. Naruto barely caught it with his kunai. Your flicker is better than it was, but it's still yet to surpass mine. But you've made tons of progress, I'm impressed. Keep it up, the blonde commented as they engaged in a battle with their blades. Naruto dual-wielded his kunai to combat Sasuke's sword. I'll beat your flicker someday. Sure ya will. The blonde laughed. Now show me that's not all you've got with your lightning. I expect more than a glorified pincushion defense. As he finished, he flickered a distance away and fired off a wind jutsu. Wind style. Great breakthrough. Fire style. Phoenix Inferno takeover. A massive bird made of fire blasted from Sasuke's mouth. It opened its huge beak and swallowed the wind jutsu, using it as fuel to enhance the technique even farther. Naruto's eyes widened slightly, he definitely hadn't expected that. Water style. Great waterfall jutsu. He proceeded to blast a massive stream of water into the air, causing it to come crashing down atop the phoenix. Now that was impressive, he commented. I developed it to solely deal with you damn wind users. The Uchiha said with a confident smirk. Maybe it's time I get serious then. The blonde replied. No, the match is over. I've seen enough. You two will tear this place apart if I let you continue. That fire jutsu you developed is easily an A-rank jutsu. That's gonna be enough for me to call it. Uchiha Sasuke, I now promote you to Junin. The blonde Hokage finished as she made her way in between the ninja. Thank you, ma'am, he said, giving her a slight bow. You're welcome. Now, both of you have my full permission to begin your hunt of the Akatsuki members. Get some rest for a few days, you begin next week. Grab Kakashi, Guy, and Yamato, and head out when you're ready. Naruto spent the next week hanging out with Rika, and working with his new team and analyzing the abilities of the known Akatsuki members. The only ones they had confirmed were Itachi and Kisame, along with Hidan and Kakuzu, but the latter two were already dead. They studied and strategized, and before they knew it there was only a day left. Naruto sat in his kitchen, eating and looking over one of the reported sightings of Itachi. He moved to take another bite, but was interrupted by a knock at the door. He stood, and quickly made his way over. Opening it, he greeted his favorite person. "Hey Rika, Naruto. How are you?" "I'm good, and you?" "Oh, not so bad. Are you busy? Could I come in maybe?" "Nah, just looking over some stuff." "Sure, make yourself at home." She walked in as he stood aside. He closed the door, and sat with her at his table. "So what brings you here? I thought you had a mission today?" "It was cancelled. The client managed to solve the problem before we even left." "I heard you have a mission yourself." "Damn it, guy must have been blabbing again, huh?" "Yeah, we do, but it's a high priority one," he replied. "Is it another S rank?" "Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, I can't really talk about it." She looked down at the ground, but her facial expression was still monotone along with her voice. "Naruto, you've been on a lot of those lately, haven't you?" she questioned without ever looking up. "Yeah, I suppose I have," he said with a laugh. "The village says jump, I say how high." "Naruto," she said, and trailed off as she stood from her chair. She motioned him to follow her as she walked out to his balcony. "What is it, Rika?" Turning around to face him, she showed a rare look of emotion on her face. Please be careful. I care a lot about you, and I can't lose you like we lost Ryuko." The tall blonde leaned down slightly, and laid his hand on her shoulder. "Rika, I'm strong. I won't go down easy." She gave him the rarest glimpse of how she looked when she was angry, and even raised her voice. "That's not it. I don't want you to get hurt." "Alright, I'll be as careful as possible, I promise." "That's better," she said blankly. He started to turn around as if to lead them back into the house, but he was stopped when she suddenly wrapped her arms around him and squeezed him lightly. He managed to hear her faintly whisper, "Please come back safe." He smiled at her words, and offered to cook dinner. They ate happily, sharing comments about the latest events around the village. After a while, he walked her home, and left to prepare for the start of his team's mission the next morning. Chapter 21. End. Chapter 22. Start. "Are you here to kill me, Sasuke? Going to take me out?" the elder Uchiha asked in a stoic voice. "No," the younger brother said, reaching up and tightening his headband. "We're gonna take you down," said Naruto as the blonde appeared beside his friend, dual tri-pronged kunai drawn and ready. "You can try. You obviously lack the resolve to become strong enough to face me. You couldn't even kill your best friend," spoke Itachi as he stood from his throne. "The strength we have when we fight together is far greater than the strength your eyes possess, brother," replied Sasuke, spitting the last word with a dangerous venom. "We've got questions for you, Itachi. You gonna talk, or should we beat it out of you?" Naruto asked, his eyes focused on the feet of the elder Uchiha. He remembered the day Kakashi had taught him how to face the Sharingan. Flashback. "Alright Naruto. If you ever have to face Itachi, you don't have a choice but to fight differently. You cannot afford to make eye contact. If you do, Itachi will waste no time putting you under a genjutsu. That man can cast genjutsu with a simple pointing of his finger. You should only fight him if you have either Sasuke or I as backup. Focus on his feet and torso. Read his body's movements and react accordingly. It's difficult, but doable, and you don't have a choice." Flashback end. The fate of the Mangekyo Sharingan is one of blindness. The power that slowly destroys itself. So there's more than one price to that kind of power. The younger brother replied, drawing his sword. Naruto. Yup. Got it. The room was suddenly filled with clones as the duo made their move. The blonde clones littered the room with sealing formula. Sasuke and Itachi locked eyes, beginning an unseen genjutsu battle. Naruto threw a kunai and appeared behind the elder Uchiha, and slammed his blade into the man's temple. Itachi fell dead before disappearing in a murder of crows as the world around the blonde began to melt. Itachi appeared before him, and shot his kunai straight for the blonde's heart. The scene shattered as Sasuke's Sharingan forced Naruto from the genjutsu of his brother. "Your genjutsu is impressive, kid brother, but what will you do now?" he asked, kicking Naruto into the wall and slashing his kunai through the man's stomach. He appeared before his brother and quickly battered down the younger man. He pinned him to the wall, and moved his hand to Sasuke's eye. Uchiha Madara once took the eye of his brother. Implanting it into his own, he achieved a power beyond your comprehension. The eternal Mangekyo, a light that will never fade, never weaken, and never flicker out. That is why I kept you alive, to have your eyes as my replacement. As he finished, he ripped the man's eye out. "Itachi, He was forced away as lightning blast from all of the tenketsu on Sasuke's body, signifying the use of his porcupine technique. As the younger brother struggled with the pain, and forced himself to his feet, Itachi placed the taken eye in a jar filled with a liquid to preserve it. He then approached slowly, intent on removing the other eye from his sibling. A clone popped up from behind the Konoha shinobi, grabbing hold of him, and holding him in place for the eye to be removed. As the traitor began to push the eye out of its socket, the world around him shattered. Sasuke stood once again, both Sharingan burning as he stared down his brother. Itachi collapsed to his knees, holding his left eye. "You broke through my Tsukuyomi? How?" "I've trained and strengthened myself to deal with your incredible genjutsu," he replied. "Then it seems genjutsu will get us nowhere," said the elder, closing his right eye and preparing the black flames. Sasuke simply smirked in response as Naruto appeared beside the elder Uchiha, kicking him away toward the wall. Before he could even impact it, Sasuke appeared, kicking him toward the ceiling. As the man flew upwards, he smiled, and landed feet first on the ceiling. As he hung there, he watched as Naruto appeared beside his brother. The blonde placed his hand upon the younger man's shoulder, and smirked as Sasuke prepared a Chidori. "Fuinjutsu, reverse summoning," he whispered, and Sasuke disappeared, and reappeared next to his brother. His lightning blade impacted where his brother had stood, forcing him through the ceiling. Sasuke was immediately on the roof in pursuit. The brothers stared each other down, before both weaving through hand seals. In unison they shouted, "Fire style, fireball jutsu." The two massive firestorms ripped into each other, Sasuke's quickly taking the upper hand. "Amaterasu," rang Itachi's voice as he conjured the black flames at will. They quickly consumed Sasuke's fireball, burning it away. "This is nothing," replied the younger Uchiha, running across the outskirts of the roof. The elder brother ignited his Amaterasu, burning a path behind the younger man as it chased him. It quickly caught up, however, and set Sasuke's Junin vest ablaze. Sasuke shed the vest, and before Itachi could reignite him, Naruto appeared by his side. Fuinjutsu, reverse summoning. They disappeared, and reappeared in the internals of the hideout. "Naruto, let's do it." "Right," he replied, and two clones formed beside him. "Fire style, dragon flame jutsu," yelled Sasuke. "Fire style, fireball jutsu," yelled the original blonde. "Wind style, great breakthrough," came the call of the first clone. "Wind style, great vacuum bullet," rang the voice of the second one. What occurred next was an absolute nightmare of a firestorm. It ripped apart the rooftop, fire scorching everything in its path. Itachi was forced to jump away as the massive column of fire ripped into the sky. Itachi stood looking on in awe at the destructive power of the duo. Itachi crouched shakily over the edge of the massive rip in the roof. His breathing was labored and his Sharingan in his right eye had reverted to normal. Sasuke stood shakily by Naruto, the blonde beginning to feel the effects on his chakra reserves. The teleportation Fuinjutsu he had developed still took quite a toll on his reserves. "That Amaterasu of yours seems to have taken a lot out of you," spoke Sasuke, glaring at his brother. "Don't play like you're not out of chakra yourself, younger brother. It seems your blonde friend will have to do the fighting for you now." "Naruto," said Sasuke, glancing at his teammate. "It's time. I have to do this alone now." Naruto looked at Sasuke with a slight sadness in his eyes. "I understand. I don't approve, but I understand. Watch from a distance. If he kills me, don't let him get away," the younger sibling said. "You have my word," Naruto replied, and disappeared from the battlefield. "Now your singular advantage is gone, foolish brother. I'm out of chakra, but if you truly believe I would come here to kill you without being prepared, well, you wouldn't be as smart as I thought." He stood, facing down his sibling with all his might. He stepped forward before he spoke again. "This jutsu cannot be blocked, dodged, or evaded. I'll destroy you with this," he said angrily. A distance away, Naruto sat atop a rock watching them. "So you've really done it, huh, Sasuke? I almost doubted you when you told me you'd mastered lightning. Let alone created this jutsu." The younger sibling channeled lightning to his hand before leaping to the highest point of the rooftop. "This jutsu is called Kirin," he said as the lightning above him reached a peak in reactivity. "I simply guide the lightning down from the heavens," he said with a small chuckle. A massive dragon of lightning formed above him, and this caused Itachi's eyes to widen in shock and awe. Now be gone with the thunderclap. With this he swiped his hand downward, sending the massive bolt of electricity at his foe. With a massive explosion their battlefield was obliterated. Sasuke stood shakily, he watched the battlefield and saw where his brother lay. He fell to his knees, and his Sharingan deactivated. He simply bowed his head, and let out a small sigh of relief. "Is this the end you've envisioned for me, brother?" came the voice of his enemy. He stood, and his brother rose as well. "I'd definitely be dead if I hadn't have had this," spoke the man, as an astral projection of a massive skeleton from the torso up formed around him. "I'm going to reveal to you my final trump card. This is the Susanoo." Muscle and armor began to form around the skeletal body, the monstrous jutsu coming to life. This also took root in these eyes of Mai. "Is that all you had, Sasuke? The battle is just beginning." He and his astral protector began to march forward to his sibling. "Now I will take your eyes, foolish brother," he said before suddenly letting out a loud cough. His hand came up and he clutched at his heart. He coughed more before falling forward and spitting a large amount of blood into his hand. "My illness, time must be almost up." Sasuke took advantage, and quickly tossed a set of kunai with attached paper bombs. This resulted in a large explosion, but through the smoke, Itachi marched ever forward. Thinking quickly the younger brother jumped forward, attacking with his sword but was instantly repelled. "How? Are you invincible, Itachi?" he questioned in his mind. For the first time since that night, Sasuke felt real terror. He slowly backed away, mind racing and panic setting in, until he found himself pressed against a wall. As Itachi reached out for his eyes, the words of his mother filled his mind. He had too many unanswered questions. He forced everything he had left into his eyes, conjuring chakra from pure willpower. His Sharingan sprang to life, and he managed to cast one final jutsu. Sharingan. Slow time. The siblings found themselves in a small and calm forest clearing. Itachi looked around in slight surprise before focusing in on his brother. "Itachi, I have one question for you." The man replied stoically. "We have an hour here before this jutsu fizzles out." "Itachi, I met mother. She spoke words to me that I cannot get out of my head." Orochimaru brought her back with the summoning, impure world resurrection. "Mother said to me, that you love me unconditionally. And that she was unsure on why you chose the path you did. I can tell a lot of this has been fabricated. Too many loose ends. Too many things don't add up. It may have tricked me had Naruto not put doubts in my head and opened my eyes long ago. But as of now, I ask you, why did you kill the clan? What is this all about? Why did you leave me all alone, brother?" Itachi's eyes widened at the mention of his mother, and his gaze softened slightly at his brother's explanation. "Sasuke. Itachi. I'm here for the truth now, nothing else. When I went home after destroying Orochimaru, I found every hidden compartment in the clan compound. I searched every single nook and cranny. Until I came upon the documents. I know the clan was planning a coup d'état. That's why you killed them, isn't it? You had always loved the idea of peace. You knew it would spark a civil war, that would spiral into a full-blown world war. Tell me the truth, brother." Sasuke spoke slowly, moving his gaze to the sky. I see you know. If I told you I killed them under orders from the Hokage, what would you do?" The elder asked, resigning himself to see how his brother would react. To see if his brother could be trusted with the truth. He had faith in the abilities of Minato's son, and between him and Sasuke, Itachi knew they could and would protect the village. Well, that was if Sasuke decided to continue protecting and working for the village that took his family. He loved his brother, and he always would, no matter the younger siblings' decisions. But he also loved the village, and he would protect it. "Orders, from the Hokage?" "Yes. Here, look into my eye. Accept my Tsukuyomi, so that we may extend our time." Sasuke did as instructed, and the two found themselves in a genjutsu inside of a genjutsu. Here, Itachi explained everything to his younger brother, including the dangers of Danzo, and explained why he loved the village so much. By the end, Sasuke knew, and accepted what had happened. Itachi's Tsukuyomi expired, and this sent them back to Sasuke's quickly fading genjutsu. "Itachi, I can accept what you did, but by no means can I forgive you. You should have found another way. But your goal, after the massacre, to protect the village from the shadows? I will uphold that goal, and I will take the mantle of responsibility from you. I will take it upon myself and Naruto, to go to the Hokage and handle Danzo. You may run, and hide yourself away, To live the rest of your life in the peace you wanted so badly, brother. Sasuke said, Itachi smiling in response. The elder brother looked at his sibling, before pulling their foreheads together. Sasuke, no matter your choices, no matter your actions, from here on out, I will love you, always. With that the genjutsu faded, and Sasuke stared at his brother. Go live in peace, Itachi. Maybe I'll come visit someday. I'm sorry, Sasuke. You see I'm very sick. I'd love to have you visit though. Sorry little brother, maybe next time. As he spoke he reached out just like old times, and tapped his finger to his brother's forehead. With this final act, the traitorous ninja, the most notorious missing nin from Konohagakure, and loving elder brother of the last Uchiha, collapsed and died. Sasuke slid slowly down the wall he leaned against, his body shaking and his mind reeling. He felt such a wild storm of emotions he could barely handle it. Itachi, as he whispered the name of his brother, tears began to shed from his eyes. Sasuke, came the call of his blonde-haired friend, as he arrived at the scene. Are you alright? Yeah, I'll live. Something is different with you, what happened? There's a lot to explain, Naruto. Alright, well let's meet up with the others and get out of here. Can you help me up? Yeah, I got you, buddy. Naruto said, looking Sasuke in the eyes. Sasuke, your eyes. What about them? Naruto pulled his headband off and used it to show the last Uchiha his reflection. They're different, he said, trailing off. Mangekyo Sharingan, was all that Sasuke said. So first of all, Akatsuki members Hoshigaki Kisame and Uchiha Itachi are dead. The Hokage asked to the newly arrived team. Yes ma'am, all have been taken out. Yamato, Guy, and myself are responsible for the death of Hoshigaki. Naruto and Sasuke handled Itachi. Confirmed Kakashi. Where is Sasuke now? She asked, eyes shifting to Naruto. He's in the hospital being treated for chakra exhaustion and burns by Sakura. He'll be here shortly. We have a lot to discuss with you privately, ma'am. Naruto explained. Alright, fine, Yamato, Kakashi, Guy. You're all dismissed, ordered the female Hokage, and as the trio exited the door, Sasuke stepped through. Lady Hokage. He greeted. Junin Uchiha. Please sit, you as well, Naruto. She said, motioning for the two to be seated. Naruto tells me we have a lot to discuss? Did you find out something from Itachi? I found out everything from Itachi, he said cryptically before he and Naruto began to recount the battle. Once they arrived at the appropriate point in the story, Sasuke took over and explained everything Itachi had told him, along with informing her of his own personal choice to continue protecting the village. I see. I shouldn't be surprised that old Warhawk would do something so reckless. No, not reckless, that was borderline treason. He went so soundly against the wishes of the Hokage. Sasuke, Naruto, I'm assigning the two of you and Kakashi to put together a sting operation on Danzo. I'd prefer him captured, but lethal force is authorized. Understood, ma'am. I have a question if you don't mind, said Sasuke, his voice all business. Go ahead? How difficult would an eye transplant be for you to perform? Excuse me? Sasuke immediately explained to her everything behind the Mangekyo Sharingan. That's disturbing at worst, and interesting at best. I could do it, but I want to make sure it gets done right. I need to properly examine the eyes and nerve endings. I'm assuming you brought back his whole body? Yes. Then I'll need to examine him for a while as well. Sasuke, it will be a while, but we will do the transplant. Do you already possess this Mangekyo Sharingan? The last Uchiha's reply was to simply activate his Sharingan, and let her watch as it morphed. Yes, he said quickly after she gave him a pointed look. Alright, well, go get some rest, both of you. You deserve it. What do you have for me? Asked a figure who stood in a tree overlooking the route headquarters. Scouts report route numbers to be around 200 shinobi, sir, said an Anbu member who had landed beside him. Good, alert Kitsune and Inu. Have them rendezvous with me at point 11. The figure spoke. Yes sir. The figure now stood on a cliffside overlooking the compound. Two more mask-wearing figures landed beside him. Hawk, one said as they arrived. Kitsune, Inu, glad to see you're on time. It's not like it's an everyday thing, Inu said, lightly complaining. Oh? I didn't take you for a liar, sensei, said Kitsune. Now, let's not be rude. Inu laughed lightly. You two are surprisingly calm. Let's just get this done, Hawk said with an implied glare in his voice. Always have been the eager type, haven't you, Hawk? Inu said teasingly. Shut up. Let's go. replied Hawk, and the group leapt down into the compound. Just then, the moon reached its peak, and the clock struck midnight. Judging by the sounds of battle I'm hearing, I'd assume you're here for me? Asked Danzo to the 3 Anbu before him. By order of the Hokage, you are to be secured. Dead or alive, you're being charged with multiple counts of treason, along with being responsible for the deaths of the Uchiha clan, said Inu. What proof do you have? The elder shinobi asked. Hawk extended his sword out at the man, pointing at him. Itachi's word. By telling you these things, Itachi is a traitor to Konoha. It seems he told you everything before he died, didn't he? It seems, you alone really are special. Don't you dare speak his name, Danzo. Hawk spoke. You never were a calm one, Sasuke. I don't know why Itachi felt the need to let you live. Petty emotions only hold shinobi back. The elder spoke. Come quietly, Danzo, and you may be allowed to live. Spoke Kitsune in an almost pleading tone. He may be a traitor, but this was still a fellow Konoha shinobi who had been close friends with the late 3rd Hokage, at least at a time. Never, you and your Hokage will lead this village to ruin. With this, Danzo began to unravel the bandages around his arm. This greeted the 3 Anbu with the gruesome sight of the many Sharingan eyes implanted in his arm. You bastard! Shouted Hawk, who had nearly lost his control at this sight. Sensing that he needed to rein his friend back in, Kitsune called out. Sasuke, calm down. We have to be smart about this. Uchiha Sasuke, I'm going to take both of your eyes and add them to my collection. Danzo dashed forward at the shinobi, intent in striking them down quickly. He drew back his fist, swinging it forward with all his strength. His hand simply impacted the rib cage of Sasuke Susanoo. So this is the Susanoo? At this, the Uchiha simply batted the man away. As he landed, Sasuke's anger took hold, and his left eye shot wide open. Amaterasu. The black flames quickly burned the man away, leaving nothing behind. After which the raven hair man tossed aside his mask aside, while blood began to drip from his eye. Sasuke, we were supposed to try to capture him, shouted Inu. I thought you would know better than to think that could take me alive, Hatake. Danzo said, as he showed himself behind the group. Seeing as the enemy already knew his identity, Kakashi cast his mask aside as well. Danzo, long time no see. And you. The elder said, turning to Kitsune. There's only one person in this village with that color of blonde hair. At this, Naruto drew his kunai and took a fighting stance. Those kunai as well. You really are his son, aren't you, Uzumaki Naruto? So you knew. I figured the elders knew. You could have at least made my life a little better. Your potential as a powerful weapon for the village was wasted when Sarutobi chose to not let me take over your training. Well, I'm really glad he didn't. Are we done? It seems all that is left is to fight. The elder replied. Naruto, Kakashi. I know for a fact I landed a killing blow with Amaterasu. Something isn't right, be careful. Said the raven-haired man, his emotions now reined in. Right, they replied in unison. Wind style. Vacuum bullets. The elder shinobi said as he blasted a barrage of air bullets at his targets. The 3 shinobi quickly reacted on their own. They split apart, all hitting different corners of the room. A tri-prong passed dangerously close to the elder's head, and as soon as it passed, Naruto was behind him. The blonde quickly slammed a kunai into each of his shoulders. With the man momentarily restrained, Sasuke and Kakashi appeared on his sides. Chidori! They yelled in unison, and both ran a hand coated in lightning through the man's chest. The killing blow landed, they stepped away. It's useless, came the man's voice from the other side of the room. Sasuke immediately appeared behind him, his body flicker even faster at this point than it had been when he fought Naruto. He positioned his sword to carve out the man's heart when a sealing formula crawled up his body. Danzo moved to stab him, only to be launched away by Kakashi. The blonde man arrived by his friend's side and quickly countered the seal with one of his own. Danzo, you're an idiot for trying to use Fuinjutsu around a seal master. Naruto said judgingly. Now that is impressive, to so quickly undo my seals. It seems you're her son as much as you are his. Enough talking about them. I dug deep recently and deducted that you were responsible for holding the Uchiha clan back from defending the village against the Nine Tails. A move that would have certainly saved many lives, as well as rebuilding the village's trust in the Uchiha. It may have even helped prevent the deaths of my family. Your crimes against the village continue to come to life, Danzo. Lady Tsunade will have to deal with it, you're sentenced to death. Kakashi said with a hard tone. Naruto appeared at the elder's side, cutting into his left arm as the man barely managed to avoid a lethal blow. As his body moved backwards, he was intercepted by Sasuke's sword cutting through him. The man simply disappeared, reappearing beside Naruto. He swung hard with a kunai, but thanks to Naruto's reflexes, he managed to redirect the blade, but was still stabbed through the shoulder. "Fuck," he shouted, flickering away across the room. "You alright, Naruto?" "Yeah, I'll live, sensei," the blonde said, ripping the blade from his wounded shoulder. "What the fuck was that? I know we got him that time." "Wait. Sensei, look, a third eye on his arm has closed," he said, noticing the trend. Meanwhile, Sasuke had already jumped in and re-engaged the elder. Danzo ducked quickly under a sword swipe, while weaving hand seals. Wind style. Vacuum bullets. Sasuke barely managed to leap away, dodging only 3 of the 5 air projectiles that had been fired at him. One ripped across his cheek, the other tearing into his shoulder. "Gah!" He let out a grunt in pain. "Amaterasu!" he screamed, more blood trailing from his eye as he managed to just miss setting the man ablaze once again. The man then quickly moved to attack. He brought a kunai to bear, and moved to push it into the last Uchiha's chest, only to be launched away by the impact of a Rasengan. As he flew away, he caught sight of a special kunai that sped past his face. Before he could even hit the wall, he was hit in the back by another Rasengan. This time launched back toward the raven-haired man, he was intercepted by a Chidori through the heart courtesy of Kakashi. Unfortunately, he had watched Kakashi take position, and had already activated his genjutsu. He popped up behind the copy nin, running a kunai into the man's shoulder. The legendary ninja's battle instincts being the only thing that helped him dodge quick enough to avoid fatal injury. Taking the wound in stride, the copy nin swung around as his hand burst into a Chidori. He managed to glance the attack along the man's chest, but it was nowhere near deep enough to cause death, or even serious injury, other than the tingling sensation the electric shock would no doubt leave. As Danzo moved to swing at the nin once again, a kunai impacted the ground beside him. He was promptly sent flying by a harsh punch thrown by Naruto. "You alright, Kaka-sensei?" "Of course," he said, and gave his student a reassuring eye smile. Danzo stood, analyzing his situation. "4 of my eyes have closed, but I am in a situation that if I do not win, I will not be able to escape." He took his fighting stance once again, and prepared to fight his death battle. "Come, show me your rumored power," he said, addressing the 3 nin before him. "Gladly," Sasuke said with a snarl, Susanoo roaring to life around him. Suddenly, his vision blurred, and he was struck with immense pain in his eye. "Gah! Sasuke, if you keep going like this you'll lose your vision. You need to hold back, calm yourself," Naruto said, worry evident even in his scolding tone. "How about we show off that new combo?" "Fine," the Raven said in response. "Kakashi, stay behind us." Wind style. Open destruction. Fire style. Searing migraine. Danzo was significantly caught off guard. He hadn't expected the 2 men to be capable of what most certainly seemed to be at the very least a rank combo. Ninja art. Massive firestorm. The 2 yelled in unison as the jutsu they had launched came together. Everything in its path was incinerated, the wood of the room burning away in almost an instant. The metal beams that held parts of the base up, heated to such a degree that they twisted and melted. Danzo was completely erased in the blaze. The roof caved in, and the large complex collapsed on itself. All 4 ninja found themselves standing atop a pile of rubble, just as the early morning sun began to cast light over the village. Danzo looked down at his arm, and watched as his 5th eye closed, sighing slightly. The 3 attacking nin all took stances once again, when a crowd of root ninja landed around them. Kakashi, Sasuke. Handle Danzo, I'll handle crowd control. He moved through hand seals, before the other 2 launched at the elder. He finished his sequence, and used his jutsu. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, 6-point barricade. A large purple barrier appeared, locking himself and the root ninja inside. The 12 root nin surrounded the blonde Junin, weapons drawn. "Surrender Jinchuriki. Listen. You're all fellow Konohagakure shinobi, and I don't want to kill you, but if you continue to follow Danzo's orders, I won't hold back," he said, and quickly whipped kunai around the enclosed barrier. "We are loyal to Lord Danzo, surrender now Jinchuriki, or we will attack. Damn, I didn't want it to be this way. Naruto sighed. Sasuke. Right, the Uchiha replied to his sensei, both of them bringing a Chidori to life in their hands. A chain of lightning shot between them, and Sasuke's eyes locked on Kakashi, while the copy nins did the same. Both used their Sharingan to synchronize their chakra, and use a technique Kakashi would normally use with a shadow clone. The two ran at the elder, the chain in position to take him apart at the waist. The man simply jumped over the technique, and landed behind Sasuke. Kakashi, he yelled. On it. Kakashi replied and disconnected his side of the Chidori. Sasuke's chakra took hold of the massive chain, and brought it around like a whip, smashing into Danzo and slicing him deeply in the torso. To finish it all, his chain launched the man toward him, and his porcupine technique turned the elder into a pin cushion. Standing across from them now, Danzo watched his sixth eye close. 6 down. Even if I beat these two Sharingan wielders, I'll need to keep enough power in reserve to take on the Uzumaki. The elder thought to himself as the Sharingan battle continued. Gah! Came the pain scream of a root agent as he took his last breath. A tri-pronged kunai having just been shoved into his heart, and quickly ripped back out. That's 4 down. Please don't keep doing this, it's not necessary to throw your lives away. Naruto pleaded with his technically fellow Konoha shinobi. Just fight Jinchuriki, we have no interest in your words. Fine. I can't keep my comrades waiting. Let's go, don't blink or you might die. The blonde said, his voice taking on an icy anger. He didn't even bother using his substitution, simply flickering in between kunai, and shoving them into chests and throats alike. Naruto quickly bathed his small battlefield in blood, and took a moment to catch his breath. He surveyed the scene for a moment, idly wondering how his father dealt with the pressure of killing 1,000 shinobi in a few seconds. As he turned to help his teammates, he was greeted with another, larger group of root nin that the other Anbu units had failed to take care of. The clang of kunai striking kunai filled the air as Kakashi and the elder crossed blades. The older man grabbed the other's wrist, and brought his foot around to kick at the copy nin side. His foot impacted hard, cracking a few ribs and sending the masked man flying. He was caught by his student, and the raven-haired man took over. Danzo quickly engaged the Uchiha, and a battle of blades began anew. Sasuke ducked under a kunai swipe, and brought his sword around his back in an attempt to cut downward into the man's back. A quick dodge put Danzo at the advantage, and he bolted to stab the Uchiha through the chest. The raven side stepped, and jumped, spinning in the air and running his sword's blade across the old man's back. Danzo tripped slightly, and felt the shift in the air temperature. Fire style. Incinerator blast. Yelled Sasuke, blasting the man's back with fire at such a close range there was no time to dodge. Kakashi. The raven yelled, knowing his sensei was already back up. Right. Lightning style. Chidori Senbon. The two yelled in unison, peppering the area with the electric senbon, forcing Danzo to be struck by them the minute he appeared. It was no killing blow, but it did damage and definitely slowed him down. Sasuke's Susanoo burst to life around him again, and muscles and skin formed over the skeletal form. He gritted his teeth in pain, but forced himself through it as he drew back his bow. He shot an arrow that ripped straight through the bandaged man's chest. Kakashi and Sasuke watched on in annoyance as the man faded once again. When he appeared, Sasuke went at him with all forms of self-preservation disregarded. He swung wildly with his sword, and fired off fireballs and used Chidori spears against the man. Kakashi quickly picked up on what the raven was trying to accomplish, and quickly joined in. As soon as the elder's attention shifted slightly to the masked Junin, a purple skeletal hand wrapped around his torso. The man's eyes widened in shock, and Sasuke grit his teeth in pain. He squeezed hard, and obliterated the man's body. As soon as he reappeared, the copy nin was on him, landing blows rapidly as the elder attempted to fight both ninja at once. I may be forced to use the Koto Amatsukami. If we come close enough for it to be necessary, I will make use of it. However, I need to save it for use on the Hokage to turn this mess around. I cannot wait any longer than today, else I risk the events transpiring now getting out amongst the shinobi ranks. At this moment, Sasuke landed his palm on the elder's back. Chidori sharp spear, he called, and the elongated Chidori burst forward, cutting right through the man's vitals, and as with before, he faded away. Damn it, only one more eye. If this goes sour I'll use the genjutsu on the Uchiha. The man decided. He then coded a kunai and wind chakra and charged the Uchiha. The last survivor smirked, and coated his blade with a chidori. They charged each other, both shoved a blade through the other's torso. Nearly a minute passed, as the two locked eyes. Go now, join Itachi. As he finished speaking, Kakashi's own lightning blade ripped through his chest. He smirked, knowing he had taken the Uchiha down, and was unharmed. He then coughed, suddenly realizing that he had been tricked. You knew about Izanagi? You put me under a genjutsu, clever. Kakashi and Sasuke quickly pulled away, and Danzo also made distance. He had immense injury, but could hold out for just long enough. Quickly, he unraveled the bandages from his head, and revealed Shisui's Sharingan. I'll use Koto Amatsukami on the Uchiha, and then sacrifice this eye for Izanagi. His hands flashed through seals, as he moved forward slightly knocking rubble away with his foot as he did. His last seal completed, he pushed his chakra to the eye, and was met with immense pain when a tri-pronged kunai was rammed straight through it. Return to the darkness, and never see the light again, said the blonde yanking the blade out. But how? That rubble you tripped over was my kunai. So much for being an experienced shinobi. You're over with Danzo. Your arrogance brought about your death. Accept this, and go to the afterlife. With those final words, Naruto planted the kunai back in the elder's skull, this time through the temple and then again separating the spine from the skull. Danzo was dead, and their mission was complete. He turned to the others, a neutral look on his face, with some worry mixed in. You guys alright? Chapter 22. End. Chapter 23. Start. Hey brat, the large white-haired man said as he greeted his recently awakened student. Good morning Jiraiya-sensei. The blonde said groggily as he pulled out a carton of orange juice. Any progress with that jutsu? No sir. Between the Itachi mission and the whole Danzo fiasco, I haven't had a day off in weeks. Ah, as is the life of skilled and important shinobi. Indeed, the blonde replied, putting toast into the toaster before turning to face his sensei. So what's up? What brought you here? What, I can't just drop by and visit my favorite student. If you were just coming by to see me you wouldn't have gotten here so early. So what's going on? Well kid, in 3 weeks I'm leaving on a super secret and important stealth mission. I want to take you back to the training complex and train you more for these few weeks. Alright sensei, I'm in. Good, meet me at the complex tomorrow, alright? Understood. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, the blonde made excessive amounts of progress. He had completely deciphered the first 3 sealing formula, and now was stuck on the 4th. He was struggling to get past it. Kid, you're diving too deep into it. Take a break, and let your mind develop everything you've learned. Not everything you do needs to be finished right away. Sometimes in life you have to sit on things for a while. Ah alright sensei. Naruto said sliding his chair back from the desk. He turned to his teacher and smiled. A spar then? Sure. At the end of Jiraiya's last week in Konoha before his mission, he found himself sitting with Naruto. The two sat back to back, sharing a popsicle, both of their large scrolls set to the side. They sat in a field atop the cliffside the complex was built into. They had just finished a spar, and had gone outside for fresh air. The Sannin found himself extremely proud of the guts his charge had. Naruto had spent the last 2 days almost non-stop in the gauntlet. Which is what Naruto had taken to calling the massive complex maze of moving training posts. His reflexes seemed to be faster than ever, and Jiraiya had no doubt that when this young man finally cracked the flying Raijin, he would have no trouble using it in combat. The blonde was battered and bruised, and his clothing slightly ripped up as well. A week's worth of taking on the dummies at faster and faster speeds, along with multiple daily spars with a Sannin had taken its toll on his body and clothing. Jiraiya smiled fondly thinking about the student who currently leaned against his back. I'll protect you no matter what Naruto. He thought to himself. Finally the larger man spoke to his charge. You've been working hard kid. Everyone has taken notice. The absolute willpower you've shown is impressive. At this rate, that Hokage title might have your name on it. You're doing great, and you've stuck to your path. You mean people are finally acknowledging me? Asked the younger man tiredly. Of course kiddo. Kakashi, Tsunade, Iruka, and even Sasuke, all acknowledge your power. But the power you possess that is more useful than any jutsu, is the willpower you hold in your heart. You really think I've come that far sensei? I'm still not at your level. The blonde asked as his leaned further back against the massive Sannin. Naruto, you'll be at my level in no time, of that I have no doubt. Minato and Kushina would be beyond proud of you, kiddo. Thank you Jiraiya-sensei, it means a lot. He replied as his eyes dropped closed. I'm glad I made you my student. I'm glad you're my god. Fath. The younger man said, trailing off as he slowly fell asleep against the back of his mentor. I'm gonna come back to watch you grow, kiddo. I promise. Jiraiya thought to himself, as he relaxed as well, but stayed sturdy enough to hold up his charge. The sun shone brightly down on the two, and they lay there for hours. Naruto slept soundly against the man who had been instrumental in making him who he was. As night finally overtook the clearing, Jiraiya collected the blonde, and brought him to his room in the complex. The sage wrote out a quick note, and made his way to see the Hokage before he took his leave. The note he left read, "See y'all later, kid. Minato was the closest thing I ever had to a son. When I look at Naruto it's like I'm looking at my very own grandchild, and I can't help but believe in the man he is. If there is anyone who can bring peace to the world of shinobi, it will be Naruto. And if it isn't peace then it will be the closest thing to it, and that's for sure." The large man said, turning away from the other Sannin. Now, I ought to get going. Wait Jiraiya, do you have to go? Of course, someone has to get intel on the Akatsuki leader. I'm the only one who can. Wish me luck princess, he replied, as he held his fist into the air, before turning it into a reassuring thumbs up. See ya. As the Toad Sage left his village, the princess he had always chased after let her tears fall. Naruto awoke groggily from his sleep, and quickly climbed from his bed. He walked to the Sannin's room, and the kitchen, trying to find his teacher, before remembering he was due to leave today. He then noticed the Sannin's note and frowned slightly. He made his way out onto the only part of the complex that stuck out of the cliff and stared into the sky. He then thought to himself, you left before I could say goodbye. Stupid pervert, be safe sensei. Naruto decided to head home and take a long shower, as well as tend to his houseplants. He couldn't ask Rika to look after them forever. Whistling, he made his way through the streets of Konohagakure toward his home. Naruto. A voice rang out, a familiar figure running over to talk with him. Oh, hey Kiba, what's up? Nothing much, how have you been? I heard you made Junin. Yeah, that was a while ago though. How about you? Any progress? No, not really, my mission count is still too low and I don't have enough team lead experience. But you're not the only one getting stronger. You and Sasuke aren't out of my league yet. Ah, I see, he replied laughing. Yeah, how's your team? Shino and Hinata? They're good, me and Hinata are actually together now, I don't think her dad likes me. The Inuzuka said, scratching the back of his neck. Hey, good for you guys. As shinobi, you never know what might come next, so it's good to find love sooner rather than later. The blonde replied with a bright smile. Thanks buddy. Well, I better get going, I've got a B rank to go on, see ya around Naruto. Later. With that, the blonde continued his way through the village. He made a quick stop at a produce stand, and bought an apple to eat along the way. Naruto? Asked a familiar voice as the blonde passed by the barbecue joint. Hey there Shikamaru, Ino and Choji too. How have you guys been? Pretty great actually, the larger man said happily. I wish I didn't have to do so many missions, but not bad. The Nara said. Other than having to deal with these two, I've been good. So is it true you made Junin? The Yamanaka questioned. Yeah, Sasuke as well. Oh wow, so Sakura is the only Chunin from Team 7 then? Yeah, that would be true. Man, what a drag, there's a lot that comes with being a Junin. That's true, but we handle it. So how are you guys holding up after? Well, you know. Not having a Suma around is kinda rough, but we've all mostly come to terms with it. Thanks for taking care of that bastard Hidan. Of course, I wanted to thank you as well Shika. If not for your information, I wouldn't have been able to take him down. Meh, no problem. Alright, well we better get going. See you around, Naruto. Ino said, and the group took off. 5 minutes of walking later, and Naruto found himself at his front door. Grabbing the handle, he found it unlocked and made his way inside. He was greeted with the brilliant view of Rika's well-toned posterior as she bent over watering his plants. Yo, he said lazily. Slightly startled, she jumped up and turned to face her company. Hey Naruto, how are they? He asked. Good. I watered them just like you asked. Are you back for good? She questioned. Nah, I'm just here for a warm shower. The water at the training compound is only cold for some reason. He replied and laughed lightly at the unusualness of the water always being cold there. Oh, well, I'll let you take your shower then. Thanks, Rika. Maybe drop by later? Sure thing, she said, rocking on her feet before making her way out the door. Anbu, fetch me Team 7 immediately. Yes, ma'am. The Hokage was only forced to wait a few moments for the arrival of the team. Team 7, you've got an S-rank mission. You leave in an hour. The case cage has been captured by the Akatsuki. Gaara, what do you mean he was captured? I mean what I said, Uzumaki. It's your job to bring him back, she said with a very serious tone. The blonde man went rigid, before his resolve steeled in his eyes. Yes, ma'am. Good. Now gather your gear and head out. Yes, ma'am, came the chorus of the 4 shinobi before her. Rika was frightened by the frantic running around the apartment Naruto was doing. She had dropped by as he had asked, only to find him in a hurried panic. Naruto, what's wrong? I don't have time, Rika, super important mission. Naruto, what's wrong? They got Gaara, okay? They got him, and I wasn't there. I'm wasting time packing extra gear. I need to go now. Normally blonde shinobi has all his gear ready to go at a moment's notice. However, all of his pre-packed gear was stored away at the training complex, where he had been spending much of his time. In his normal composure, he would have gone straight there to get it. But his worry and panic over Gaara's situation had thrown him off quite a lot. It was uncharacteristic of him to get this flustered by any situation. Konohagakure's campaign against the Akatsuki had been going so dramatically well, he hadn't even considered the thought of losing someone to them. There hadn't been a single casualty from the actions of the Akatsuki since Asuma. Naruto, if you go like this you'll get yourself killed. I'll be fine, I need to. He was cut off when she slapped him across the face. A mixture of anger and worry grew on her face as she held his head. She forced him to look straight at her. You need to calm down, think, and be careful. These guys managed to take on the case cage. You have to use that awesome brain of yours. I know for a fact that if this wasn't Gaara, you'd be much more yourself in this situation. You're being uncharacteristically panicked, and you need to calm down and think like you normally would. I'm terrified. You are facing people that took on a cage. But I know you have to go. Because not only is he an ally, but he is your friend. I know you won't let harm come to him. Naruto stopped his panic. His brain and body calmed themselves at her words. Thank you, Rika. Naruto. You could die on this mission. I don't want to regret this. As she finished, she quickly leaned up and kissed him. Be safe, and come back to me. I'll tell you about this scarf when you do, she said, holding the burnt orange scarf in front of his face. Now go, she said as she disappeared in a body flicker. He stared at the spot she had stood, a slight smile creeping onto his face. I'll be back, I promise, he said quietly to the empty apartment before flickering away to find his team. Sasuke leapt away as the flames of a massive explosion licked at his back. He turned, and saw the onslaught of Klay flying beetles coming at him. His eye bleed lightly as the ribcage of the Susanoo surrounded his body and stopped the explosives from causing any damage. He sighed in relief, and his Susanoo deactivated, only for his eyes to widen as a massive bird made of clay screamed toward him from the sky. Kamui, came the voice of his sensei as he sucked away the bird to a separate dimension. Are you okay, Sasuke? I'm fine, thanks, Kakashi. Good, let's get this guy. Meanwhile, Naruto found himself extremely happy Lady Chiyo had come along. With her help he was able to focus on Sasori. There was nothing against Sakura's skills, but she was still only about Chunin level in speed. This meant she had no capability of dodging the puppet user's attacks. He also knew he could count on Sasuke and Kakashi to retrieve the case cage. His tailed beast may have been ripped from him, but Naruto held out hope. At this moment, the puppet user chose to use his army of 100 puppets. Sasori was skilled, and Naruto's clones couldn't get close. He knew it would take one quick catastrophic blow to take this guy out. He might be able to do it with his Rasengan, but he knew someone who could crush the man's entire body with a single punch. Sakura, Chiyo, I'll make an opening, be ready. Right, they replied in unison. He peppered the whole army with his kunai, and decided it was now or never to use his substitution to the max. Replacing with kunai after kunai, he used the Rasengan to make his way down the middle of the army. Sakura followed closely behind his trail, with the old puppet user guiding her moves. He burst through the opposite side of the puppet wall, having used the last of his substitution. He landed on his feet, and Sakura launched over his head, and came down with a massive heel drop to Sasori's torso. The man's puppet body shattered, and he was no more. "Alright, good work. Let's go support the team," he commanded. Having dealt with Deidara, the combined might of Team 7 easily being enough to handle the former Iwa Nin, Chiyo now sat before Gaara's lifeless body. "I was inspired by how you treat this boy, our Kazekage, as one of your closest friends. You, Uzumaki, and this boy Gaara. You will be the future. Lend me your chakra, so that I may give my life for his." "Chiyo, I can't ask you to." She cut him off quickly and spoke. "You don't need to ask. This is my choice, and my way of entrusting the future to you and Gaara. I could never give a damn about the village. But being around you, listening to how you feel about Jinchuriki, I've learned a lot. To think an old lady could be taught so much by a youngster. Now come, let me borrow your chakra." "Yes, ma'am," he replied solemnly, trailing off. They sat in silence as Chiyo did her work. Naruto watched as the life slowly drained from the woman. As she fell back, Sakura caught her, but she was dead the moment she landed in the girl's arms. Sand Shinobi began to arrive as the Kazekage slowly came back to consciousness in the land of the living. As he sat up, he was greeted with a mop of blonde hair. He immediately recognized the long blonde bangs that framed his friend's face. "Naruto," he said lightly. "It's me, Gaara. We came to rescue you. Your friends and Shinobi have arrived to help as well. Although they are a little late to the party," the blonde said with a sad chuckle. "I thought I died." "You did. That lady gave her life to save you. She put her trust in the peace between our villages in you and I." "Lady Chiyo gave her life for me?" "Yes, she did. Naruto, help me stand." "Yes, sir," the blonde replied, lifting the redhead to his feet. The Kazekage stood shakily, and began to address those around him. "Everyone, pray for Lady Chiyo. May she be forever remembered, and rest in eternal peace." With that, the entire force of Shinobi bowed their heads, closed their eyes, and prayed. "Naruto, thank you for coming to help me. Obviously I'd come help. You and Sasuke are my best friends. I'd do anything for you guys. Originally, you wanted to kill me, but you've grown on me. You ought to come visit the idiot more so he doesn't pester me so much," commented the Uchiha who stood beside the blonde. "Thank you both. I wish the best for both of you, and I look forward to our villages working closely together," the Kazekage said, shaking the hands of both Shinobi. "Thank you both for being my friends. I've become a very different person due to the lessons you both taught to me." "Anytime, Gaara," Naruto said with a smirk. "I'll always help out my friends, you know." Team 7. It seems congratulations are in order for your mission to rescue the Kazekage. Well done, Sakura, you managed to save the life of the Kazekage's brother as well. I'm proud of all of you. Good work. Kakashi, Naruto, and Sasuke. You've all been hitting high-ranked missions back to back. Take a month off, the Hokage said, addressing the freshly returned team. Thank you, ma'am, the three males said, as they made their way out of the office. Sakura stayed behind to assist her mentor with her duties. As Naruto left, something clicked in his head pertaining to the flying Raijin, and he knew he had to get back to it right away. He sprinted down the hallway to leave, and almost ran headlong into Rika. Hey Rika, I know we need to have a super important talk and all, but I have to do something now and it's imperative I do it right now. He whipped out a piece of paper, and scribbled directions to the complex on it. Come by in the morning, he yelled, as he handed her the paper and ran off. The girl smiled lightly, before speaking under her breath. Weirdo. Naruto sat at his desk in the complex once again, mind reeling as he tried to wrap his brain around the complex theory of the last seal formula. He had completely reconstructed the third formula, which had pertained entirely to the time side of spacetime theory. With the other three out of the way, he could completely focus on the fourth kanji. This one represented tear. It was what made the movement through spacetime possible at all. With this, he was able to figure out exactly how the four formula worked in tangent. It essentially boiled down to speed through a spacetime tear. Speed being the first formula, space being the second, time being the third, and tear being the fourth. The user would use chakra to shape and form the tear in spacetime, and use it to move through. It was much like if you folded a piece of paper in half and cut a hole through it. When it is unfolded, the distance between the holes is massive, but if you fold it, it's like stepping through a door. He spent the next 7 hours laboring away at his desk. Slowly through the day papers and drawings accumulated on and around his desk. Quickly the room became a mess of fuinjutsu scribblings and math equations. Having told Rika of the location of his secret complex, this was the sight she was greeted with when she entered his study. "Naruto?" she asked, slight worry showing in her blank voice. His hand shot up, and was held in a motion for her to wait. "Hang on." He spoke seriously. She heard him mumble and curse under his breath, when suddenly he shot out of his chair. The man stood rigid, hands planted on the table. "No way," he said in disbelief. Suddenly he jumped up, fist in the air. "I fucking did it. I got it." He sprinted to Rika, and picked her up, spinning her around in his excitement. "Naru, wah. What did you do?" she said, having trouble getting the words out as he spun her around wildly. "I figured it out. I cracked the code." "What code?" He stared at her a moment in confusion. Suddenly it clicked and he realized she had no knowledge of his work on the flying Raijin. "Look Rika, you gotta keep this a secret, but I've been attempting to learn the flying Raijin. It's a technique developed by Senju Tobirama, the second Hokage. It was further improved by Namikaze Minato, the fourth Hokage, and it is what got him the title of the Yellow Flash of Konohagakure." "Naruto, that's incredible. Can you perform it?" "Not yet, I haven't tried. I had to bust my way through tons of fuinjutsu formula and spacetime theory, but I've finally figured it out. I can try it out tomorrow, but for now, it's time for a long overdue talk between us." "Alright, and Naruto? Yes? You can put me down now." Oh right," he said laughing as he set the girl back on her feet. Slowly they chatted and made their way to the kitchen. "You know it's 6 in the morning, right? Is it? Oh wow, I should probably sleep. But I'm still wide awake right now. There's plenty of time to talk." "Okay, perfect. Let's go sit on the couch," he said as he guided the woman to the sofa, and both took a seat. "So before we talk about anything else, you owe me a story." "Oh, that's right. Well, my father used to beat me on a daily basis. He'd leave me in the cold outside our house, in an attempt to hide my bruises. I was so cold one night. I was so sure I was going to die. But I met you, Naruto. I met you, and you changed everything for me. I saw a blonde boy, with a smile that split the world. I remember seeing you, in your black sweater, brown pants, and your stupidly bright orange scarf. You were like a symbol of hope to me. Everything about you in that moment shined bright. You walked up and asked if I was cold, and I remember stuttering out a yes. You wrapped me up in that coat of yours and wrapped your scarf around me. You gave me the gloves on your hands as well. You took me around the village. When it began to rain, you opened your backpack and held an umbrella up for me as we walked. Just trying to cheer me up. You were so kind. I was so happy. And then the next day all I ever heard about you was bad things from the villagers, our classmates, and their parents. I was so worried that if my father heard I was around you he'd beat me worse, or maybe even go after you. I didn't want that. So I ostracized you. I avoided you and tried to forget you. But you were still the kind boy who changed my life. Someone who I could never forget. I had a crush on you for a while as well, and eventually Ryuko befriended me. She got me to go out and do stuff. Eventually an Anbu witnessed my father's actions, and the Hokage stepped in. My dad was a chunin, and he ended up getting thrown into a prison. My distant uncle was notified and he came back to the village and looked after me a while, but eventually he left again and was killed on a mission. When I saw you and Ryuko got together, I was just so happy that the both of you were happy. Rika, you're pretty. Eyes wide, Naruto thought to himself, I just said that aloud. Are you stupid? She giggled. At a moment like this that's all you have to say? Thank you Naruto. Sorry, I was listening though, it just popped into my head, and Rika I care for you as well. I think Ryuko would be happy with us being together. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you want maybe we could be together? I'd love that. She smiled. This scarf you gave me sparked so many things in my life. It's like my very own orange thread of fate. But here we are, and not only do I have your scarf, I have you now too. I don't know why I can't remember that day, but it was so long ago, and now that I know of it, I know you're the one I want in my life Rika. He spoke, before extending his hand and lightly taking hold of her scarf. Our stories seem to have been intertwined since the beginning, so might as well let them merge now. He said, and pulled her close to him via her scarf. Carefully and lovingly, he planted his lips on hers, sending sparks through both of them. The toad sage sat inside the mouth of one of his toads as it made its way into a megacure. Huh. Why do I have the sudden feeling that I need to be proud of a certain blonde? Oh well. Back to writing it is then. He thought to himself. The sage was making the finishing touches to the new book he had begun writing after Naruto had finally beat him in that spar. It seemed like so long ago to the old sage now. He remembered watching over the boy after he first met him, and he had no doubt now. That child, no, that man would be just as, if not more legendary than Minato ever was. And if someone could bring about peace, or anything close to it, it would be Naruto. Be safe, brat. He continued his writing, and after a while the toad notified him that they would soon be inside AIM. What will I name this book then? We're here, Lord Jiraiya. Alright, thanks for the ride. See y'all later. The toad simply saluted before disappearing. The sage began walking into the village before stopping in his tracks. He quickly whipped out his book, and began scribbling. Ah, I know. The Tale of the Prodigal Son. Fitting for a book loosely based on the life of Naruto. The Sannin smiled widely as he put his notebook away, and made his way further into the village. Chapter 23. End. Chapter 24. Start. The Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant. Well, now it will end a bit better, I hope. The final chapter. I'll call it The Frog at the Bottom of the Well, drifts off into the great ocean. Just barely glorious, but glorious indeed. Oh, that's right, what should I name the sequel? I wonder. Let's see. The Tale of Uzumaki Naruto. Or maybe, Namikaze Naruto. Yeah, that has a nice ring to it. Sorry I couldn't be there for your upcoming birthday, kiddo. Naruto threw a kunai, and it impacted the target across from him. Channeling his chakra, he activated the flying Raijin. The blonde appeared before the target, and suddenly he collapsed to one knee. Pain shot through his body, and vomit filled his throat. Gah, damn it, that hurt. What am I doing wrong? It takes so much to rip open the hole in spacetime. Using my chakra to blast through ends up taking so much and causing me a great deal of pain. He thought, analyzing the results in his mind. He didn't even want to stand back up, it hurt so much. Suddenly he felt a large hand land on his shoulder. His eyes shot wide, and he stood quickly. Sensei, I didn't even sense. You? He said, trailing off as he realized no one was there. What the hell? I could have sworn that was. He thought. He placed his finger to the ground and stretched his chakra over the village. No, he's not back. The blonde went back to his notes, and soon after, resumed attempting his technique. A few tries later, and no progress made, Naruto realized it was time for a date with Rika. He quickly flickered away from the complex to her house to pick her up for their meal. Tsunade, so it's really true then? He's really gone? Yes, I'm sorry, my dear. It is the truth. The elder toad said sadly. I see. Anbu, fetch me Kakashi. Yes ma'am. A masked figure said. It then dropped from the ceiling and disappeared from the room. Only about a minute later, Sakura stepped into the office, confusion slowly overtaking her face when she saw the toads. Lady Tsunade, what's going on here? She was cut off quickly when Kakashi appeared before the Hokage. Ma'am? The copy nin asked. Kakashi, Jiraiya has been killed in battle. I need you to go get Naruto and bring him here. Lord Jiraiya has. Yes ma'am, right away. The masked nin said, quickly flickering away from the office to fetch the blonde. Lady Tsunade, is it true? Is Lord Jiraiya really? Yes, it is, Sakura. Now, please go, this is something that Naruto needs to hear in private. Yes ma'am, will do. I'll come back later. So there I am, kunai in hand, and I swear I've got that pervert right where I want him. No escape possible. And he turns into a freaking toad. It was crazy. The blonde told his new girlfriend as he recounted a tale from his early training with the sage. The brunette giggled loudly and smiled at him. That sounds like quite the tale, Naruto. The blonde spun around in his chair to look at the doorway of the restaurant. He had sensed his sensei coming, and waited patiently. Hey Kaka-sensei. Hey, Naruto, the fifth has called for you. The Hokage? Is it important? I'm kind of on a date. Naruto, it's a top priority. Kakashi said after thinking a moment. I'm sorry Rika, I have to go. Would you like to come along? He said as he turned to the woman he was with. Can I even? The scarf-wearing female asked. If you really want, I suppose it can't hurt. Now let's go. The three stood outside the Hokage tower, and Naruto was stunned to see Gamabunta sitting outside, with Gamakichi atop his head. Hey guys, what are you doing here? Did something happen? The toad simply stared back at him blankly, trying not to show any emotion. However, the blonde could sense chakra, and he could tell by the feel of everyone here but he and Rika, that there was something definitely wrong. What's going on around here? It's nothing, let's go. Kakashi replied quickly, as he continued into the tower. Strange. Naruto said questioningly. Rika turned and gave him a soft smile, before they both continued inside as well. Is this the student of Jiraiya boy? Huh? An elder toad? Yes, that's me, Uzumaki Naruto. I'm Jiraiya sensei's apprentice. What's up? The blonde said, staring at the new toad with a questioning look. There's no easy way to say it, nor is it useful to dance around the issue. Jiraiya boy has been killed in battle. Huh? The blonde said in disbelief. What did you just say? Not too long ago, there was a rumor that the Akatsuki leader was hidden in a megacure somewhere. Jiraiya went in to confirm this rumor. The Akatsuki leader was called Pain. Now I don't know if Jiraiya boy told you, but he trained a group of children from AIM during the Second World War. It seems that this Pain is actually one of those children. To defeat someone as powerful as Lord Jiraiya, that's quite a feat. How did this Pain pull it off? Kakashi asked. It was because Pain possesses the Rinnegan eye. The Rinnegan? No. That means, with this everyone's eyes were on Naruto. The blonde's anger boiled inside him, even Rika looked at him in concern. First he took my mother and father, now he's taken my master as well. To top it all off, he was trained by Jiraiya sensei. Tsunade's eyes widened at Naruto, mentioning that he knew who his parents were. Naruto, you know? Yeah, I know, I met my dad. Tsunade dear, we're getting off topic. The Rinnegan is extremely powerful, but to top it off, there were 6 of them with the Rinnegan eye. 6? How is that even possible? Asked the copy Nin in disbelief. I don't know, perhaps there's some trick behind it. I believe Jiraiya boy figured it out in that final battle. Even after having his throat crushed, and he knew the end was near, Jiraiya boy left a message before collapsing. The toad said, whipping off his cloak. This is his message. It's a code, commented Shizune. I believe he did this to prevent Pain from catching on, but that is all I know. I'm not sure what he was trying to tell us. Spoke the Hokage. Naruto boy, he also gave me something that I need to give to you. It's the final draft of his new book. The elder toad said, and held out a book to the blonde. The man stepped forward, and took the parchment in his hand. He also pulled out his own piece of paper and politely asked the toad to turn around. He quickly copied down the code left by his master, before he placed the book and the paper in his pocket. He then stepped away, back to Rika's side. He looked to his Hokage, and then spoke. Did you let him go, Lady Hokage? The elder blonde closed her eyes and sighed before answering. Yes, that's right. Everyone in the room felt Naruto's chakra flex at the words. His anger became almost malleable. I see. The man said, his anger coming back under his hold. I have to go. He spoke. Now hold on Naru. Kakashi was cut off when the man disappeared via body flicker. Damn it. That kid, enough Kakashi, let him be. Understood ma'am. Naruto, Rika said in worry under her breath. Damn it, came the loud scream of the blonde as he slammed into the ground. His most recent attempt in using the flying Raijin had thrown him head over heels as he came out. He had tried to come out running, but the pain sent him off of his feet as soon as he had teleported. What am I doing wrong, sensei? The blonde's thoughts were overtaken by memories of the large white-haired sage. A man that had been a mentor, a friend, and a father figure. Why'd you have to go alone? Jiraiya sensei. The blonde stood, and made his way back to his home. Sadness filled him, and he couldn't even focus on his training. He had tried to use it as something to distract him, but it really hadn't worked. He sighed loudly as he walked, and just couldn't shake the feeling of hurt that had overtaken him. Naru. Hey, Rika. How are you holding up? Not well, he's gone Rika. He was a father figure to me. He was a man of immeasurable strength, and honestly I thought he was invincible. But now, he's dead, he's not coming back, and if Jiraiya sensei couldn't beat this guy, who can? The self-doubt he held within him from long ago quickly clawed its way to the surface. Naruto. More than anything, Master Jiraiya believed in you. He believed in your willpower, and in your strength. Yeah, I don't know, I just miss him. I know Naru, but he'd want you to keep going, and celebrate his life, more than dwell on his death. I wanted him to watch over me. I wanted him to watch me become strong. To see me change the world of shinobi, and to see me become Hokage. I wanted him to be at my wedding one day, and I wanted him to be a grandfather to my children. Oh Naruto, I'm so sorry. I know it hurts. But you have to remember darling, he's watching over you every day now. His eyes are on you at all times, now more than ever. Thanks Rika. Would you mind maybe letting me sort this out alone for a while? Of course Naruto. Come get me if you need me. Will do. A few minutes after the woman had left, Naruto stood from his bed and sat down at his desk. In front of him, he placed Jiraiya's recently finished book, The Tale of the Prodigal Son. I'm proud you wrote another book that can affect people's lives. I'll have to get this published. He thought to himself as he examined the book. As he lifted it, a note suddenly slipped out. Confusion dawned on his face, and he quickly examined it. Naruto, I plan to take you to your parents' home for your birthday. But I write this letter in case I don't make it back from a megacure. Obviously I'm so super awesome though, so we don't have to worry about that. But anyway, I've included the address of their former home, just for you. Please go have a look around. Stay strong kiddo, see ya soon. The blonde cried at the last words to him from his sensei. It hurt to know that the man had genuinely believed he would be able to make it out of AIM alive. I think I'll bring Rika along to the house then, he said to himself. He then wiped his tears, and stood. He made his way to the door, and was off to find his girlfriend. Naruto. Whatcha up to? Wanna get some ramen on me? Iruka said, bumping into his student in the street. Actually, sure, the man replied quietly. What's the matter Naruto? Asked this other father figure in the blonde's life. Let's talk about it at the stand. Alright, the two made their way to the ramen shop, and they chatted about trivial things until their food arrived. So, what's wrong Naruto? Well, Master Jiraiya was killed in battle. What? Naruto? Are you serious? Yes, he said sadly. The two ate quietly as Iruka thought on what to say. They soon finished their meals, and Naruto began to get antsy. He moved to excuse himself, but Iruka caught his arm. Wait, he said, come with me. Alright, the blonde replied in slight confusion. Eventually the two found themselves in the park. Iruka motioned for the Junin to sit on the bench before speaking. Wait here, I'll be right back, he said with a smile. The Chunin returned quickly, a two-piece popsicle in hand. He broke it in half, and handed one to Naruto. Here, you look like you could use one, he said to the boy, no man, that he had watched grow. Lord Jiraiya loved you like his own child, Naruto. I'm sure his last thoughts were of you, and I'm sure he's watching over you right now. He certainly wouldn't be happy seeing you sad like this. So don't stay depressed forever. After all, Lord Jiraiya himself, one of the three legendary Sannin, acknowledged you as his promising student. I'm sure you're the man that Jiraiya hoped to see you become. And you are the embodiment of his teachings. You and only you, can show the world what he taught you, and pass his teachings to the next generation. Thank you, Iruka-sensei. The blonde replied with the softest of smiles. The pair sat and talked a while, eating their popsicles in the midday heat. The two soon said their goodbyes, and the man was once again off to find Rika. So this is. Yes, this is my parents' old home. Once we step through this door, you're going to learn an S-rank secret. Are you prepared for that? Of course I am. Alright then, let's go. With that the pair stepped into the building. Naruto had undone the barrier and locking seals Minato had once placed on the wooden door. They looked around in wonder, before Rika made her way over to a shelf. Naruto, this is. Your father is. She said, picking up a photograph. Yeah, my dad was the fourth Hokage. The resemblance is uncanny. How did no one notice? I think it was more that they didn't want to notice. You see, the reason they orchestrated me, was because I am the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. The nine tails? Yeah. Father sealed it in me to save the village, and to protect the balance of power between the villages. He made a sacrifice not only for the village but for the world. Doing so he placed a massive burden on my shoulders, but I look at it as more of a responsibility. He said, rubbing dust off of another photo of his mother and father. So is that why you're learning the flying Raijin? Yes, father left me that jutsu, a final gift to his son. I see, the woman said. Naruto, your mother was beautiful. He smiled in response. I know, wasn't she? Quite the amazing woman. I would have liked to meet her, she said with a soft smile. I'm sure they would have loved to meet you as well, Rika. The warm grin plastered across his face told the woman that her partner had come to terms with the death of his master. I'm going to store away many of these photos. I want to keep them with me a while, until I decide if I intend to move into this home. Smart idea. The brunette commented. After some time spent exploring, Rika took her leave, and Naruto moved into what they had discovered to be his father's study. He looked around for a while, and discovered pages and pages of his father's notes. Impressed by the amount of theories and fuinjutsu ideas his father had come up with, Naruto stored it all away in his scroll, and returned home for his rest. Nagato, everyone is dead, we can't keep this up. I'm sorry, but it's over. No Conan. I will retrieve the 9 tails myself, as I should have all those years ago. Unfortunately, that bastard Hokage managed to rip away my control of the Geto statue. It took me quite a while to regain the ability to summon it. Okay, say you do capture the 9 tails, then what? We will rest, recover, and I will hunt down Jinchuriki on my own. While I do this, you will recruit new members. You're going to capture all those Jinchuriki alone? You and I both know that will be extremely difficult. On top of that, the only tailed beasts we possess are the 1 and 3 tails. As they say, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. The man said, a slight anger in his tone. Weeks passed, and Naruto continued his attempts to figure out the flying Raijin. He struggled to actually perform the technique. He just couldn't understand what exactly he was doing wrong. Due to this, he now found himself talking with Rika. Yeah, I don't know. It's just so hard, I'm really struggling to figure it out. I'm sorry, Naruto. I wish I could help, but you know I'm no good with this stuff you're talking about. She replied. She was currently patching up one of Naruto's training outfits. It was torn badly on the leg. They continued to converse as Naruto watched her try to rip away a piece of fabric from the pants. He watched as she pulled at it harshly to no avail. The woman wasn't all that great at this sewing, and she was very much just winging it. He watched with curiosity as she made a small cut in the fabric, before using that cut as a starting point to tear the fabric away. Rika! He yelled, causing the woman to jump. What? Dang it, Naruto, you scared me. You're a freaking genius. Thank you. Thank you so much, you brilliant woman. He yelled excitedly. He quickly pecked her on the cheek, and smiled at her. I have to go. I think you just got me to crack the flying Raijin. He said, full of excitement. Here, take this in case I figure it out. He then quickly handed her a marked tri-pronged kunai, before he disappeared in a body flicker. The woman shook her head at her boyfriend's antics and made a simple statement under her breath. Weirdo. Naruto quickly stopped at his parents' old house. He had read in his father's notes about some kind of secret passage in the basement that lead to something, but the notes were incomplete. They had been dated to the night before his birth, so he assumed his father hadn't had the chance to complete them. He wanted to go check it out quickly before he threw himself headlong into the flying Raijin training with his new idea that had been sparked by Rika. Coming before a strange and well-locked door in the basement, the man stood in confusion. The door had a few locks on it, as well as plenty of sealing formula to keep it closed. After some time of trial and error, Naruto unlocked the door, and made his way inside. What is this? The blonde questioned in wonder as he stood in a seemingly unending plane of existence. A massive open and blank white and gray area sprawled around him. Dad, you crazy genius. I can't believe it. You created your own pocket dimension. The blonde stood there, taking in the marvelous amount of work it must have taken his father to develop this. Wait, how the hell am I going to get out of here? Shit, this might be a problem. He sat down, and quickly unfurled his scroll, extracting the notes of his father. He quickly began sifting through them, intent on finding an answer. Studying quickly, he soon figured out 3 things. The first was that his father had created this place as a testing ground for extremely dangerous jutsu. The second was that this pocket dimension only slowed time by a few hours. 24 hours in the pocket dimension would be 12 hours in the real world. The third had deeply concerned the blonde. His father had not written down how to escape this place. It certainly had the man stumped, and he needed to figure it out. He made multiple shadow clones, who quickly set to work on finding a way out. In the meantime, Naruto planned to perfect the flying Raijin. Before he got to work, however, the boy spun around and made 3 more shadow clones. These clones quickly got to work on trying to decipher Jiraiya's message. Has anyone seen Uzumaki Naruto? Asked the Hokage to her assembled group of nin. No ma'am, I believe myself and Iruka were the last ones to see him. That was last week. He had been headed to his training complex, but no one has found any trace of him. I highly doubt he deserted the village. I believe he may have caused himself trouble in his training. We checked his house, and the Inuzukas tracked his scent to the basement door. However, it was locked with multiple sealing formulas and no one could even begin to comprehend them. And with Master Jiraiya gone, Rika trailed off. That brat always gets into trouble. We'll give him another week, but if he hasn't returned from wherever he's gone we will begin attempts to break into it. The Hokage said. About 2 hours after the meeting, a dreadful feeling came over some of the people who lived in the village. They had no idea what was about to happen. Gah! Came the pained shout as the Chunin died at the hands of the Akatsuki leader. Kato! Yelled the other Konoha Chunin. As soon as the man finished speaking he found himself lifted from the ground and pulled rapidly to the strange orange-haired man. He screamed in dying pain as a black rod ripped through his chest and pierced his heart. Tossing the body of the fallen nin to the ground, the shinobi turned his sights on the village. It is time, Uzumaki Naruto. Civilians watched in horror as rockets and summons destroyed the village around them. Massive explosions rocked the ground beneath their feet, throwing some down to the ground. Rika stopped, and quickly helped up an elderly woman who had fallen. Please, evacuate quickly, she said to the elder, who smiled and thanked her, before quickly running off. What's happening? Rika asked aloud as she ran through the streets. She made her way across rooftops, trying to find the source of the destruction. She skidded to a stop as she heard the voice of the Chunin, Amino Iruka. She watched as an orange-haired man landed before her former academy teacher. Speak now. Is Uzumaki Naruto in this village? Iruka looked up at him defiantly, attempting to tend to the wounded ninja below him. I don't have anything to say to the likes of you. Is that so? Then I have no need for you, said the man stoically as he swung his arm down, a metal rod intended for Iruka's chest. His arm was stopped suddenly however, when a gloved hand caught it. The Rinnegan wielder then came face to face, and eye to eye, with none other than Hatake Kakashi. Take that man with you, and pull back. I'll handle things here, spoke the copy nin. Why yes sir. Iruka replied obediently. He quickly gathered his wounded comrade and made his escape. Kakashi quickly dodged a kick from the enemy, and summoned an earth wall behind him. Earth release. Earth-style wall. The wall sprouted behind the Akatsuki leader, and had him trapped, at least Kakashi thought so. He quickly brought a Chidori to life, and moved to slam it into the enemy. Moments before it could connect, he was blasted away by the almighty push. Fire-style. Dragon Flame Jutsu. A column of fire came from Rika, jumped down from the rooftop and landed beside Kakashi. The man escaped the damage from the Chunin's jutsu, but seemed unprepared when Kakashi released his own. Lightning style. Lightning beast running jutsu. The large hound made of lightning barreled towards the man, and just when it looked like it would connect, it was blasted away by the orange-haired man's technique. So he can repel jutsu as well. The copy nin glanced at the Chunin beside him. Rika, you sure you want to be here? I'll fight, no doubt. Any idea where Naruto is? He also gave her a look that said, don't reveal anything. No, I haven't seen him, she said, shaking her head. Shit, we need to protect him, replied the masked man. Let's handle this first then, spoke the stoic brunette. Right. As this was said, another path of pain crashed down behind them. Its arm extended and opened up, blasting out a large number of rockets at the Konoha nin. A massive explosion enveloped the two nin, and it looked as if they had been killed. A cloud of dust appeared behind the new arrival, and Kakashi burst from it, Chidori in hand. He was extremely surprised when the man dodged with no trouble, even from his blind spot. The man regrouped with his comrade, and they were immediately greeted with another blast of fire. Fire style. Flame bombs. Called the brunette. The fire seemed to roast the two, only for them to come out mostly unscathed. However, the man who fired the rockets had changed. He now possessed 3 faces, 6 arms, and a massive blade extending from his back. The original attacker raised his hand, and pulled the two Konoha nin toward them. Kakashi bound for the misformed man's blade, and Rika bound for a black rod extending from the original's sleeve. Kakashi caught himself and Rika with a chain he had anchored. Unfortunately the pull increased, and ripped the masked nin away. The brunette managed to grab a better hold of the chain, and weighed out the jutsu. Due to this, she was forced to watch as Kakashi was promptly impaled by the massive blade. She also bore witness to Kakashi turning into lightning and shocking the enemy. The orange-haired man suddenly glanced up, and managed to dodge away as the fists of the Akimichi impacted his partner, and the place he had stood moments ago. The last Uchiha found himself only a few miles outside the village when a feeling of dread suddenly overtook him. What the hell? He thought to himself. He had been returning from a mission outside of Fire Country, and had almost made it home. He quickly made his way to a high point, where he assumed he would get a semi-clear view of the village in the distance. The sight he was greeted with filled him with worry for his home. The Sharingan wielder leapt from his perch, and quickly made his way to the village. Seeing the massive columns of smoke rising from the village sent shivers down his spine, and anger to his heart. Chapter 24. End. Chapter 25. Start. Naruto stared at the kunai over 100 yards in front of him. He had just perfectly executed the flying Raijin for the 200th time. It was actually the first time using it perfectly himself, but his clones had previously been flashing all over the pocket dimension. He closed his eyes, and focused on the feeling of the single kunai before him. His eyes suddenly shot wide open however, when he sensed a kunai inside his parents' home. God damn it, I'm an idiot. How could I not have thought of that? Of course you would use flying Raijin to leave this place, Dad. The blonde smiled to himself, and quickly collected his kunai in the area. He then closed his eyes, and flashed to the blade in his father's home. The blonde flashed into existence back in Konohagakure, only to land on a pile of rubble. What the hell? He asked aloud. He looked around, and found himself in the ruins of his parents' previously standing home. As he pushed himself up, he uncovered a large white cloak. The Junin pulled it from the ruined closet that it sat inside of. He had held it up in front of himself, when his balance was rocked by multiple explosions and the loud sounds of battle raging through the village. His face hardened as he realized his home was under attack. He stretched out his chakra, and felt the weak signatures of Kakashi and Rika, along with everyone in the village. Knowing they were in trouble, the blonde quickly pulled the cloak on, and disappeared in a flash of yellow. Rika and Kakashi sat buried in the rubble, pain coursing through them. Before them stood the orange-haired man. Your inability to move doesn't seem faked. He spoke. Shit, I didn't make it. Is Rika alive? Kakashi thought to himself. He looked around and saw the blue net pinned against a wall, a pipe sticking through her side, but she was breathing. I know you're not a shadow clone, Hatake Kakashi. It's over, but I will not approach you, just to be safe. Two nails ripped from a board below his feet, and flew up into his grasp. Humph, no pain. Kakashi took a deep breath, realizing this was the end, only to see a yellow flash appear in front of him. At the same time, one appeared in front of Rika as well. Both nails were knocked away, and before both ninjas stood a blonde-haired man, a cloak upon his back, with orange flames licking the bottom, and the kanji reading, Yellow Flash. Sensei, Kakashi called, shocked at the pure resemblance between Naruto and Minato. He had, for just a second, mistaken one for the other. Too slow, said the blonde. 3 kunai flew at the orange-haired man, but he immediately recognized just what kind of kunai they were, and repelled them with his jutsu. Naruto had expected this and appeared behind the man in a body flicker, and 2 kunai were thrown into the air before his foot impacted the man's back. The body of Pain stumbled slightly before he felt a hand grab him on the bicep. He quickly grabbed the offending appendage, and slung the blonde across the rubble field. As he moved to engage the thrown blonde, he was forced to stop and repel a spear of lightning. Chidori sharp spear, came the voice of Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto, take them, I'll hold him off while you handle the rest of the problems. Here, take Lady Katsuyu, he yelled, throwing the small slug at the blonde. Thanks, don't die Uchiha, Naruto said, quickly flashing to Rika, who he picked up gently in his arms. Another clone popped off and grabbed Choji, flashing the boy to the Hokage. As if. The Uchiha replied as he watched Naruto's shadow clone grab Kakashi, and the pair of blondes flashed away to the Konoha hospital. How? Did you get to me so quickly? Kakashi asked his student. You still carry the kunai my father gave you. The masked man looked at the boy stunned, before realization dawned on his face. Ah, that's right, I guess I do, he said, rubbing the back of his head. Where did you get the coat? He asked. Oh, Dad seemed to have a prototype coat in his closet at the house. I found it when I got out. Long story, I'll tell y'all later. The blonde Junin replied. Oh okay, Enrika? Did you give her a kunai as well? I gave her one before I returned to my training ground. My shadow clone will explain the rest, sensei. I have to go. The boy said to his teacher, before walking over to the bed he had laid his lover on. Rika, I love you. She stirred slightly before looking at the blonde. She smiled softly, but with a tired look adorning her face. Naruto, I love you too. Good luck. He leaned down and kissed her cheek. He could see the pain she hid however, and his fist clenched in anger at his side. Thanks. I'll be back in a flash. Tsunade. The boy said, landing next to the Hokage. Seeing that Choji had just gotten done explaining the abilities of the main pain body, he continued with his plan. Ma'am, please, tend to the people at the hospital. I have clones collecting them and bringing them there. Please Lady Hokage, let me do the fighting, and you do the healing. More will live that way. Naruto, fine. Take me there, she said after a moment's hesitation. Yes ma'am, the blonde said, grabbing her shoulder and flashing her to the hospital. I've gotta go, Grandma Tsunade. Naruto said with a soft smile. Be careful, and make us proud, she said, with a soft smile of her own. No matter how smart the young man was, and how collected he could be, some of that age-old personality Iruka had told her about still managed to show through at times. As the Anbu Black Ops battled the multi-headed dog, Inochi, Shizune, and a few others, were surprised by the arrival of a massive rhino. Next thing they knew, the rhino had torn down the building, and the dog had arrived along with the Anbu. Before anyone could move though, a voice echoed through the streets. Summoning. Multiple food cart destroyer technique. Across the village, all of the summons were crushed under the massive weight of Naruto's toads. Shadow clones stood atop the heads of some, but the real Naruto stood atop Gamabunta, whose weight was holding down the massive dog. Gamahiro stood beside them, perched atop the rhino. Bunta, hero, hold them down just a bit longer. I need to gather some chakra to do both at the same time. Will do. But hurry up, brat, yelled the boss toad. Shizune called out in wonder, Naruto. Is that you? Don't worry Shizune, I'll wrap this up in no time. The blonde called back. After which all the toads in the village came crashing to the ground, the enemy's summons gone from beneath them, along with Naruto and his clones. Meanwhile Sasuke was still battling it out with the main body of pain. Damn it, now that Naruto has that jutsu down, he's definitely stronger than me. I'll have to train more. He might be the only one who can get around this guy's stupid jutsu. The young Uchiha stared down the orange-haired man. Chidori Senbon, he called as thousands of lightning needles shot from his hand at the man. The Preta path quickly appeared, absorbing the ninjutsu Seban. Sasuke grew annoyed. He didn't want to use it yet, considering it risked his sight. Fine, I don't have a choice. He closed his eyes, and his left eye snapped open. Amaterasu, he called, as blood began to trickle from the eye socket. Burn to ash. Almighty push. With that the flames of Amaterasu were forced away, and he then moved his hands in a different gesture. Universal pull. Sasuke was pulled towards the man, but smirked as Naruto flashed into existence behind pain. Sorry, but you're needed elsewhere, buddy. Naruto said, grabbing a hold of the man's arm where he had left his flying Raijin marker. He had teleported them outside the village, to a crater left by the tailed beast bomb his father had teleported away from the village on the night of his birth. The man immediately reached up and ripped the sleeve of his cloak off, knowing the flying Raijin marker had been placed there. He noticed that the young adult had also teleported his summons to this crater as well. You know, this crater we now stand in. It's only here because of you. You caused the death of my mother and father. I got to meet my dad. He's more skilled with sealing than I am, so he worked it into the seal that I would be able to meet him one day. Except, when you attacked the village on my birthday, you were supposed to have red hair. The blonde stared down the diva path, the slightest hint of anger in his eyes. Where's the real you, Nagato? The puppet corpse narrowed its eyes at the Jinchuriki. How did you know? Well, Dad said a man with a Rinnegan and red hair attacked the village, and well, only Jiraiya Sensei's 1 in a million student fit the description. Not to mention, the message he sent back contained valuable intel. I know the real you is not among those here. I see, so you know. But you do not know of my pain. You have not felt my pain, so you cannot understand me. Listen buddy, I felt pain. I watched my first love die before me. I grew up alone, because you killed my parents. And I felt even more pain when you killed Jiraiya-sensei. You may have killed a couple hundred or so nin in the village, but that stops now. I'm here and you won't touch my village again. Naruto quickly weaved through hand signs as he saw the man's summons begin to move. You're all talk boy. Summoning. Multi-food cart destroyer technique. He called out as multiple shadow clones burst from the trees, dropping massive toads atop the summons. Among those toads were Gamabunta, Gamaken, and Gamahiro. 2 shadow clones burst to life behind Naruto. They pulled the scroll from his back, and flickered to the sides of the crater. They unraveled the scroll, and weaved through hand signs. In a puff of smoke, 40 tri-pronged kunai sat before them. The 2 clones then took the opportunity to litter the crater with them, before they themselves rolled the scroll back up, and tossed it at the original. I hope your eyes can keep up. He reached into his kunai holster, and withdrew another marked kunai. He moved himself into a fighting stance, and as he did 5 more orange-haired paths of pain landed before him. You see, I hope you weren't planning on destroying my village just because I wasn't here. That would be pretty rude. And on top of that, it looked to me like you intended to kill Rika, and that just doesn't sit right with me. The 19-year-old said, appearing before the man in a flash, and kicking him high into the air, sending a barrage of kunai along with him. He slashed the diva path 6 times as they made their ascent, before flashing behind him at the highest point and bringing his kunai down into the man's back. As pain landed, Naruto did as well. Flying flash. Heaven stage. He smirked at the enemy as his feet touched the ground. The path stood, before extending his hands out before him. Almighty pus. He was cut off as the blonde slammed into him, throwing him back across the ground. I won't let you. He yelled, moving to attack once more. He was then intercepted by the human path, who threw him away toward the Asura path, whose massive blade that had once killed Kakashi's shadow clone, moved to end his life. He was forced to flash away from the group, as all 6 paths converged with their chakra rods in a strike aimed directly where he had been. I see you've already able to at least be on par with your father's use of that blasted jutsu. The diva path commented. You had a fox to distract him last time. Now you don't have that. This time you're going to lose. Pain. As if. The man said, extending his arms. Almighty push. He yelled, and every Raijin kunai was blown away to the edges of the crater. From the intelligence I've been given, he should had about 5 seconds in between each use of that jutsu. Their eyes are all linked, but you can't dodge if you can't even keep up. Thought the blonde, who threw a handful of kunai at the Naraka path. Gotta take him out first so he can't bring back his buddies. He appeared before the corpse puppet, slamming his fist into it, while simultaneously marking it with his Raijin seal. He tossed it away and appeared behind it, a larger than normal Rasengan charged. The jutsu smashed into the body's back, destroying it almost entirely. Universal pull, yelled the main body, and the blonde was sent hurtling towards the remaining paths. Just as he thought he may have the blonde though, the younger man disappeared in a flash, landing on the edge of the clearing. I've got something important to protect, so I can't lose here, yelled the blonde, launching 2 kunai at the animal path. The kunai landed just in front of her, and Naruto appeared, slashing her across the face with a kunai, before kicking her into the air. A kunai chased her, and impacted her chest, before Naruto flashed into existence behind her. The blonde quickly sent her back to the ground with a Rasengan. He appeared once more above her body as she bounced off the ground, and slammed into her with another Rasengan. Flying Raijin. Combo level. He called in his head as he destroyed yet another of the paths of pain. The summons now gone, Naruto sent the toads home as well. Having sensed the presence of a new player, Naruto began to weave through hand seals. Wind style. Open destruction. A massive blast of wind left his mouth, as it barreled toward the main body. Fire style. Searing migraine. Came the shout of the newcomer. As the jutsu joined together, a simultaneous shout came from both parties. Ninja art. Massive firestorm. Sasuke landed next to his friend as they watched the jutsu barrel towards the enemy. Unfortunately, the Preta path jumped before the main body, and instantly absorbed the jutsu. Fuck, I forgot about him. Of course you did, you dolt. You never change. Shut up, Sasuke. Now this is going to feel weird for you, but I have a plan. How would you like to teleport today? Asked the last Namikaze. If I was going to trust anyone to teleport me, it might as well be you. Not to mention you've done it before during our fight with Itachi. Quipped the Uchiha. Yeah, but that was a little different. The new speed demon quickly grabbed his friend on the shoulder, and as he did so, his clones once again threw a volley of kunai around the crater. Almighty push! Yelled the main body, and all the kunai were repelled, only to burst into smoke. Another volley of actual kunai were launched this time, and the crater was covered. Suddenly the Uchiha had appeared behind the Asura path, and stabbed his Chikudo into it. Chidori blade, he called, and his Chidori took possession of the entire sword, slicing the entire Asura path in half. Naruto flashed beside him, and teleported his black-haired comrade to the Preta path, who Sasuke immediately engaged with his sword. Naruto appeared before the human path, bringing a Rasengan to bear at the corpse only for himself and Sasuke both to be sent flying. Almighty push! The two Konoha shinobi landed beside each other. Fuck, we almost had them. Chill Sasuke. We'll get them. Right, you two should just give up now. And your deaths shall lead to peace. The Diva Path spoke. Surprisingly, it was Sasuke who was riled up by this. What the fuck can you say about peace? You just came and tried to destroy our entire village. You almost killed my teammates. And the whole point of you being here now is to kill my best friend. Nothing about what you are doing here is peaceful. My brother gave up everything to protect our home. I won't let you step on his sacrifice. We are outside the village now, so I'm not going to hold back, Naruto. The Uchiha stared at his friend. No, you can't use the Susanoo. You can't risk your eyesight. Save it for if I get knocked out of this fight. You promised not to use it until you had Itachi's eyes implanted. We can use your other jutsu though. Let's go, said the blonde. Sasuke was teleported to the side of the crater, and immediately he nodded to Naruto. Combo 6, said the Uchiha. Got it. Fire style, searing migraine. Wind style, open destruction. As the two massive elemental jutsu combined as they climbed into the sky, and the two nin shouted in unison. Ninja art. Massive firestorm. A massive deadly-looking storm cloud began to form overhead, and the main body of Pain was almost confused as to what was going on. Sasuke, Naruto said quickly. Don't even try it until I've taken care of that other one. I know, the Uchiha said, and Naruto reached out, placing a tri-pronged kunai in the one-time Avenger's hand. The blonde disappeared to the opposite side of the crater, slinging a handful of Raijin kunai at the three paths. This is getting old, said the main body. Almighty push! He yelled, sending the kunai away, only to see a second group of kunai come falling down from the sky. They surrounded the three paths, and a flash burst into existence beside the Preta path, grabbing it on the shoulder before disappearing. A small explosion was heard in the direction of one of the training grounds, before the blonde appeared beside the Diva path. He hid kunai in the firestorm they created earlier. Nagato thought to himself from his faraway hiding place. The blonde kicked the body away and yelled to his comrade. Sasuke. Now, the human path had a perplexed look upon its face, before it turned in shock at the diva appearing next to it having been teleported by Naruto. This jutsu is called Kirin. Now, with the thunderclap, be gone. As the Uchiha moved his hand down, lightning from the heavens followed. It completely ruined the human path, and left the diva path with only tatters of a cloak left, and exhaustion evident in his expression. You Konoha nin just don't know when to quit. Fine, then I'll use that jutsu. Planetary devastation. A black sphere formed in his hands, that he then threw into the sky. The ground and everything in the general vicinity began to rip apart and fly toward the sphere. The Uchiha was ripped from his perch, and a few trees were torn away as well. Sasuke. He flashed to his best friend, quickly teleporting the man back to the village. I'll be back, this is my fight now. Seconds later found Naruto staring down the final body. I'll just continue to pump chakra into the jutsu until you are sucked up into it 9 times. The man cut off suddenly. What the blonde didn't know was that back at his control tower, Nagato had began a fit of coughs, having pushed himself much farther than he had anticipated. Naruto took immediate advantage of the situation. He quickly threw a kunai at the man. The kunai stabbed into his chest and Naruto appeared above him, Rasengan charged. He brought the jutsu down upon the man, crushing him to the ground. Flying Raijin. Second step. The man's body lay broken and battered, and yet he began to stand. Naruto wasn't about to let him recover though. He flung 2 kunai at the man, and when both impacted he teleported behind him. He landed 3 quick kicks to the man's chest, before launching into a spin kick that sent him backwards. To finish him off, Naruto jumped into the air, and connected a heavy heel drop to the man's head. This ends here. The man once again stood, and Naruto decided it was time he stopped getting up. He threw 2 kunai parallel to each other, and charged a Rasengan in each hand. Time-space. Rasengan barrage. He thought, as he flashed between the kunai, appearing before his target and demolishing his body with the combined force of his 2 oversized Rasengans. Naruto knew he had done it, when the body failed to stand anymore. He spawned 2 clones, who began pulling the rods out of the original blonde crouched to the ground, and stretched his chakra over a large area, searching for anyone unfamiliar. So that's where you are, he thought, sensing the chakra of the man named Nagato. Not a bad hiding place, out in the forests of Konohagakure. But unfortunately for Nagato, Minato had long ago littered the forests with kunai and markers. Naruto flashed to one of these markers and he was now only about a mile away from the location of the enemy. He was beginning to get tired. Shit. Dad must have been a chakra beast, to just teleport all over like this. The flying Raijin is not for those with small chakra reserves. That's why I'm perfect for it. He quickly body flickered to the fake tree Konan had set up. He cut through the wall with his kunai, and stepped through cautiously. So this is where you were, Nagato. The blonde sighed, as much as I don't want to do this, Jiraiya-sensei trusted in me to try to find peace, whenever possible. So that said, I'll give you this one chance to surrender. Give up, stop this senseless killing. I don't want to have to kill my sibling students. You both trained under Jiraiya. I know about your friend, Yahiko. And seeing as how he isn't here, I'd assume he died. I'd also put money on the fact that you probably only became the way you are now, because of his death. So tell me, would he be proud of the actions you have taken since his death? The blonde asked. At those words, Nagato and Konan visibly froze. The thoughts plagued the redhead's mind, the brunette stunned by the words as well. You talked about finding true peace. Nothing about how you go around just killing people is peaceful. Didn't anything Jiraiya-sensei said stick in that stupid head of yours? Nagato yelled back at the blonde, Jiraiya was a fool. His words are nothing but a dream of an idealistic old man. You're right. Jiraiya-sensei was a fool. The day will never come when everyone can understand each other. But, when I become Hokage, I will do everything in my power to make the world become more peaceful. If there's a chance of the other villages working with me to come together and have a peaceful world, then I'll make it happen. But if Konohagakure is attacked, I will stop at nothing to protect it, and end any war as quickly as possible. The blonde spoke, his voice that of pure resolve. The red-haired man glared at the 19-year-old. You're a fool. You could not find the answer, so there is nothing more you can do. So do the just thing and simply sacrifice yourself to me, and to the peace that I shall soon construct. A chakra rod shot out of Nagato's control throne, aimed at Naruto's chest. I see. So be it. The blonde said. 2 kunai landed beside Konan, and 3 flew at Nagato himself, courtesy of 2 shadow clones Naruto had hidden higher up in the tree before he entered. He flashed in front of Konan, destroying the brunette with a Rasengan in the back, inflicting wounds from which one could not recover. He then flashed to Nagato just after the 3 kunai impacted the man's chest. He appeared just above him, and slammed a kunai into the redhead's throat. Watching the life drain from his eyes, Naruto sighed. I really didn't want this at all. I suppose all I can do is move forward. You threatened my home, I hate you for it, but I forgive you. But you just wouldn't stop. He sighed once more and left the tree as it began to crumple into sheets of paper. He traveled a while, before finding a suitable place, and set up a shrine to his sensei. Jiraiya-sensei. I hope at the very least you will be proud of me for protecting Konoha. I know this isn't exactly what you wanted. But even you may have been too naive. Goodbye, sensei. Rest well. With that the boy began heading back to the village. Lady Hokage. A nurse yelled as the Hokage finally fell from exhaustion. The nurse and a few nin laid her on a bed, and she looked at them through tired eyes. Have Sakura and Shizune take over. Bring me Kakashi, he should be up by now. Yes ma'am. Minutes passed and Kakashi walked into the room. You wanted to see me, Lady Tsunade? Kakashi, go find my brat. The masked Junin eye smiled at her before responding with, "Yes ma'am. Please rest now. Kakashi, I'll be out for probably about 2 to 4 weeks," she said, her body beginning to succumb to exhaustion. Having spent all her chakra on preventing as many casualties as possible, she had done her utmost to protect the village. "You are temporarily appointed as Hokage in my stead." "Yes ma'am. I'll hold down the fort," he said, and after acknowledging his response, the Hokage fell asleep. "I'm coming, Naruto," thought the Junin as he left to find his student. "Damn if I ain't tired. Flying Raijin really takes a lot out of you, doesn't it, Dad?" The blonde thought to himself, looking to the sky as he stumbled through the woods. Jiraiya-sensei, Mom, Dad, would you be proud of me? Choosing to take the lives of those who threatened the village. I'm sure you would, Mom and Dad. But what would you think, Master? You entrusted your dream of peace to me. Old man Hokage. Dad. No matter how I feel, I will always take the well-being and protection of everyone in Konoha on my own shoulders. The Junin's steps faltered, and he fell forward. Naruto. You did well. You made your mother and father proud. And all of your sensei as well, including Master Jiraiya. Came the voice of the copy nin as he caught the blonde man on his back. Kakashi, how's Rika? She's fine kiddo, rest now. Alright, with this Kakashi made the trip back to the village. He's gotten much heavier, they really do grow up fast. Kakashi, came the loud shout of the last Uchiha as he landed beside his sensei. They were only about a half-mile outside of Konohagakure, and the Uchiha had gotten impatient in waiting for the return of his comrade. Is he alright? Yeah, just tired and exhausted. Good. It can't hurt to show a little more emotion, Sasuke. I've already lost enough of my filter due to my exposure to the idiot. It's important I compose myself as much as possible these days. Sure. Fuck. You, Sasuke? Mumbled the blonde as he began to stir. The conversation between the other two men having brought him back from his slumber. You alright, idiot? Yeah, I'll live, he replied, having Kakashi slowly set him on his own 2 feet. Shortly after, the three broke the tree line, coming face to face with the village, along with hundreds of grateful villagers. Kakashi and Sasuke recognized exactly what this moment would mean for the blonde Jinchuriki, and quickly faded back behind him. Shouts and cheers rang out at the sight of the man who so closely resembled the fourth Hokage. Naruto slowly made his way forward, and the crowd parted, letting children in to pester him. As he patted heads of children, and spoke kind words to the young ones, the crowd parted before him once again. Konohamaru and his group popped out of the crowd, dragging their fellow children from the blonde, and leaving him standing alone. Standing before the man was a blue-haired woman, someone he fully intended to give all of his love to. Naruto. You came back to me. I always will, Rika, it's the promise of a lifetime. No force, in heaven or earth, can keep me apart from you. The blonde replied, walking toward her. She smiled brightly, before turning her face away and blushing brightly. To hide her face, she leapt forward into his arms. But when she finally looked up, their eyes met, and their lips locked together for everyone in the village to see. I love you. And I love you. Chapter 25. End. And that is it for this couple of chapters. Only 2 more videos to end this fanfiction. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. See you all later and bye.